The next show will start in 1 minute.
Media, an illusion of choice. Do you know that only 6 corporations own 90% of the American media? The most powerful special interest group in Washington is the media. The media is the gateway of information to the American public, and any politician strives to reach the public through the media. Thus, the media have a great say in which politician is granted a voice. To provide a historical perspective, in 1983, 90% of the American media was controlled by 50 companies. Through a history of mergers and acquisitions, these companies have concentrated their control over what we see, hear, and read. In many cases, these companies control everything, from initial production to final distribution. Now only 6 companies own 90% of our media. Our main source of information and cultural output is coming from these 6 giant conglomerates: Comcast, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Profit maximization is the ultimate goal of every corporation. And if that goal becomes entangled with reporting the truth in the news, what will ultimately win out? What happens when there is no one left to compete with? When one company owns everything in your town, does the people in your town have a voice in their media anymore? Would they hear or watch content that is relevant to their lives? Probably not. The more independent media outlets a community has, the more different viewpoints will be presented on air. And the question that arises, do we really have a choice in our media?
PragerU says 60% of their audience is under 35. About 35 PragerU videos are currently restricted.
When we first realized that our videos were being restricted, there were about 15 videos that were restricted, and that was a year and a half ago. And since then, not only has the issue not been resolved, there's actually been 20 more videos restricted, and currently it's closer to 40 videos that are being restricted.
On December 18th last year, Twitter permanently suspended my account and the account run by my organization, American Renaissance.
A campaign ad banned by Twitter. Representative Marsha Blackburn talking abortion and her pro-life views that Twitter deemed inflammatory.
Yesterday, Alex Jones became an unperson, straight out of the plot of George Orwell's 1984, where when someone broke the rules of the power structure, they would have all evidence of their previous existence completely deleted. Which is what happened yesterday when YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes completely wiped all the videos, posts, and podcasts from Alex Jones and InfoWars. And regardless what you think of him or InfoWars content, this is the digital equivalent of book burning and sets a horrifying precedent for mass censorship by the big tech companies.
Hi, this is Cindy Williams, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Good day, fellow citizens of Maryland. Today I just would like to bring to your attention that we're going to have our Maryland governor debates for 2018. There are 4 candidates that are legally on the ballot for these debates. That would be our current governor, Mr. Hogan, the Democratic candidate, Mr. Jealous, myself, Sean Quinn, and the Green Party candidate. All four of us are legally on the ballot, and we should be at the debate so that you, the citizen, can hear what we have to say. For some reason, Maryland Public Television does not think that you need to see all the candidates running for office in your state. I urge you to please call Maryland Public Television and tell them that you will not stand for this kind of shenanigans. There is no reason that you should not be presented all the candidates running for governor of this great state. If the candidates turn out not to be so great, you should make that decision, not Maryland Public TV, who is operated on tax dollars. Thank you for your time.
Streaming live from the Paul and Catherine Ranke Memorial Studio, this is TV Free Baltimore. Support for TV Free Baltimore comes from viewers like you. Become a TV Free Baltimore member by visiting patreon.com/TVFreeBaltimore.
As a public service, TV Free Baltimore provides a digital soapbox for those the mainstream media ignores. The opinions expressed in this live stream are not necessarily those of the owners, management, or underwriters of TV Free Baltimore. Furthermore, TV Free Baltimore streams hyper-local content focusing on politics and entertainment in the Baltimore viewing area.
See this cute little vial here? It's crack, rock cocaine, the most addictive form. You think it's the glamour drug of the 80s? Well, that's the point of this friendly little reminder. It can kill you. And if you've got to die for something, this sure as hell ain't it.
Hi, this is Cindy Williams, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
This is Gunhild Carling, and you are watching TV Free Baltimore. No, you are not watching. You have to watch TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Pat McDonough with the Pat McDonough Report. We're going to try to cover some of the news items today, but the main thing I want to get across during this half hour is about probably one of the most important news items that will impact us, and that is the upcoming election in Maryland for the office of governor. Now, it's only about 8 weeks away as I speak to you tonight. Of course, when you see this, it may be even closer, but this is certainly a key election. Now, if I were a betting man, I would have to say, in all fairness, and you would probably agree, I got to bet on the governor's re-election because here's a man that has a 70% popularity rating, and it's been pretty steady, and he is the incumbent, and he has $9 million. Now, his challenger, Ben Jealous, great name, isn't it, Jealous? Where did he get that name? Ben Jealous. We don't know very much about, but he won the Democrat primary quite handily, and he's from California, so we don't know a whole lot about Ben, but he is the Democrat nominee. And as I said, if I were a betting man, and I think you would feel the same way, we got to bet on the governor. Now, I will say this to you, first of all, not so quick, okay? Let's take a look at some of the facts and the figures and some of the numbers. Let's start off by taking a look at how the governor got elected 4 years ago. I don't know if you know this or not, but when the governor ran, that was the lightest turnout in the history of the state of Maryland of Democrat voters. very light turnout. The governor did okay in those strange territories of Montgomery and Prince George's County, and he even won Howard County, which I think would be very difficult to do this time. But let's take a closer look. So the governor won by 60,000 votes. Now, that was what we would call the pre-Trump era. We are now in the post-Trump era. In every election, somehow or another, President Trump has an impact. But let's get back to how Governor Hogan won. There was a very strong hangover from Martin O'Malley. People had had enough of O'Malley and his taxes and his spending. And of course, Anthony Brown was his lieutenant governor. And Governor Hogan represented a fresh approach. He stuck to the numbers. He was not real partisan, not real Republican in this very, very deep blue state. And don't forget that point. Very, very deep blue state. Now, the governor won, 60,000 votes or so. In the post-Trump era, or the almost post-Trump era, when President Trump was running in the election in Maryland against Hillary Clinton, he lost in Prince George's and Montgomery County by, I've heard numbers as high as 150,000 votes. So Maryland is not only a very deep blue state, Maryland is a I'll say it again, anti-Trump state. And that is going to factor in the Hogan re-election. But let us take a look at some numbers. Sometimes you learn things about numbers. There was a recent poll by the Gonzalez Polling Company, and that's a reliable polling company. They've been around Maryland a long time. And the numbers indicated that the governor had 52% of the vote, and Jealous had 60, no, let me get that straight, had 36. It was 52 to 36. Now, this was about a month ago. There were a lot of high fives in the governor's camp, or maybe not exactly in the governor's camp, but around the state with governor supporters. I would caution you, you're missing something. The big spread between the governor and Jealous, yeah, it's there. But what you need to pay attention to is the 52%. Yeah, that's right. Not 70, not 71, not 68, 52%. What is that? That's pretty close to 50, isn't it? Well, you see, that number you've been hearing about, that 70%, is what they call a popularity number. The governor is well liked. I mean, he fought a tough cancer battle. He's a likable guy. He's done a lot of good things. And he's popular in this deep blue radical state. But when it comes to those who will say, I will vote for him, it's 52%. So that's the number you got to look at. This popular governor is at 52%. I'm not excited about that. I don't know about you. I don't like that. Now, I like the fact that Jealous is at 36, but you got to remember the governor has hammered on him for 2 months, pointing out that he's a socialist. Now, Ben Jealous says, well, I'm not a socialist. I was an investor, a banker investor. Well, he was a banker investor who specialized in socialist programs, raising money for socialist programs. But no, listen, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a socialist, and he is. His agenda is Bernie Sanders' agenda. Now, the question is, will the people of Maryland buy that agenda? Yep. Too many of them will. A lot of people like handouts. A lot of people like free college, free preschool, kindergarten, pre-K. A lot of people, for some reason, I don't get it, but they think it's okay to be a criminal advocate. It's okay to be soft on crime. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around among politicians and people in the state of Maryland. Not everybody, I know that, but too many. So we can't underestimate Ben Jealous. And, you know, we haven't reelected a Republican governor in this state since the 1950s. And we haven't reelected a Republican candidate statewide in this state since the 1940s. Now, let's take a look at those numbers again. Baltimore County is the key battleground county in the state of Maryland. The governor received, I think, about 59% of the vote in the last election in Baltimore County. His re-elect numbers in Baltimore County are not there. The ones I've seen are like 55, 56. And the wise guys say that he needs more than that 59 this time because the Democrats are coming out. So he needs maybe 60 or 61. I don't see it. It's going to be tough for the governor to get those numbers. I know it's still early. We don't know, but we do know one thing. Even though it's early, the Democrats have been coming out all around the country. There is an anti-Trump fervor in a lot of states, especially in states like Maryland. Now, there are a lot of Trump supporters, don't get me wrong. In Baltimore County, probably about 30%, maybe more. And then you look at the Eastern Shore and you look at the Western Maryland, a lot of Trump supporters in Maryland. But not reliable, but liberal and socialist Democrats and the black vote. Black vote is a big vote in Baltimore County. Now it's growing. And it's a big vote in the state of Maryland, and Ben Jealous is black. But not only that, I mean, he was actually the president of the NAACP, so he has a lot of popularity in the state of Maryland already going for him. You say, well, wait a minute, he's got 36% just to start, okay? A lot of these socialists start out lower, and they keep edging up. And they also keep getting a lot of money. These two women that won congressional seats over Democrat incumbent powerhouses raised some money. Where did it come from? They were both minority women. Where did it come from? In the state of Texas, Ted Cruz, a former presidential candidate, an incumbent United States senator, a darling of the conservatives all across the country, is running in a tight race with a very, very liberal, in Texas, I'm saying Texas, a very, very liberal Congressman, Beto O'Rourke. Yes, that's his name, Beto. Well, old Beto has raised $20 million, the same amount as Ted Cruz. Yeah, how'd that happen? This is Texas. This is not Maryland. This is not California. This is not Massachusetts. This is Texas. So there are some weird, and I will also add scary things going on in politics in this election year. I think in Maryland, the black vote is coming out for Jealous. I think the vote in general among the Democrat liberals is coming out against Trump. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. You say, well, you know, the governor is not Donald Trump. People know that. I mean, he has made public comments against President Trump. He didn't even vote for President Trump. He voted for his father, president. He said that publicly. So how can people hate the governor so much and say, well, we want to get Donald Trump, send him a message? They don't dislike the governor. They want to send Donald Trump a message. In Maryland, the Democrats and the left, progressives, they want to send Donald Trump a message. And unfortunately, the governor is the guy that's in the way. I mean, it's like you can visualize the governor laying flat on his back, and the Democrat voters are trampling right over him like a herd of cattle, and they look down and say, hey, governor, I like you. You did a good job, but I got to get Trump. Like the governor doesn't exist. So I think the efforts that the governor has made to distance himself from President Trump may have backfired because the people he wants to accept him and to vote for him because of the atmospherics out there, not enough of them are going to do that. But those in Maryland who admire the president are very angry with the governor. I mean, I run into them all the time. They call me on radio, on talk radio, and see me on the streets in the supermarket, and they say, Delegate McDonough, I am not going to vote for president. I'm not going to vote for Governor Hogan. And I say, why? Oh, he bashes the president. I love the president. He's saving America. Why is Hogan picking on him? And they say, why doesn't he just keep his mouth shut? If he doesn't agree with the president, just don't say anything. And I try to explain to them the governor's situation. He's in a box, right? But in addition to that, they don't care. They're just angry. It's like single-issue voters. If you're pro-life or pro-choice, you're not going to vote for somebody if they're the opposite of your feelings. And a lot of the Trump people feel this way. So the Hogan people will say, well, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? They got to vote for the governor. No, they don't. There is a thing that's very, very scary in elections called the undervote. Have you ever heard of the undervote? Well, the undervote is a situation where a person goes into the polling place, they vote for the congressperson, they vote for the county executive, they vote for the state delegates, but they don't vote for governor. Now, this is a conservative Republican who normally would vote for the governor, but they don't because they're angry and insulted because he insulted their president. That's called the undervote. Now, an undervote is very vital. It can kill you, especially in a close election. And it will be there. On my talk radio show, people call in and they are adamant. They say, we're not going to vote for him. And I say, you realize, of course, you're giving a vote to Ben Jealous. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. You have no idea the catastrophic scorched earth policy this guy will descend upon our great state. But people just feel very strongly about this. So this is something where the governor is caught in a crossfire, and it's tough for the governor. So there isn't any question that the governor has some very smart people working for him, and they're obviously, they know this. I'm not creating any secrets. They know it, and the reason we know they know it is because they've already spent $3 million on television advertising, bashing and defining Jealous. That's a lot of money for August and September, right? So they know. Their biggest fear is complacency. Too many people wander around the reservation saying, oh, the governor's going to win. Don't worry about the governor. My God, he's got 70%. He doesn't have 70%. He has 52%. And I've heard people who are elected officials that support the governor speaking out on the stump, and they say, don't take it for granted. Don't be complacent. So who is going to decide this election? I'm going to tell you right now who is going to choose the next governor. His name is Mr. T. No, it's not the guy that used to be on television. I even forgot the name of the show. Mr. T. Remember him, the muscular black guy? It's not him. Mr. T is Mr. Turnout. Turnout is going to decide this gubernatorial election. Now, I can tell you, the Democrats are coming out. The black vote is coming out. So if you want to reelect the governor, you've got to come out and vote. It's no pushover. It's no guarantee. It's a tough election. They're all tough. You never know what's going to happen in an election. So I'm going to take a break right now, and we'll get into some more news. But Mr. T will decide who the next governor will be. I'm Pat McDonough. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. We'll take a look at some other items that are in the news that I find interesting. This week, Nike took a knee. They gave millions and millions of dollars to this guy, Colin Kaepernick, who was a one-year wonder quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, and started this wonderful trend of disrespecting the flag and the national anthem and our military service people. I'm a veteran, and I can tell you that people who serve this country do not appreciate that flag. It's symbolic. Yes, I understand it's a symbol. But do you ever think about what the flag is a symbol of? It's the symbol of the best in America. It's not the worst, not the mistakes we made, not things we've done wrong, the flaws we have in our country, the disagreements. That is not what the flag represents. The flag represents the symbol of liberty to the world. It's our message to the world. It is a message that we send around the world, what that flag represents, whether it's on Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima, or it flies over the 9/11 Center in New York. The flag, yes, it's an inanimate object. I understand that, but it is not inanimate. It's alive. It's alive with the spirit of liberty and those that have given their blood for that liberty over the decades. And all of the things that are the best in America, all of the things that are good and great and exceptional about America, that is what that flag stands for, and that is what our national anthem is supposed to promote and instill in the American heart and soul, and it does with most people, overwhelming. So Kaepernick decides, and look, Kaepernick's a lefty, okay? He's not only a lefty, he's a hater. He has a pair of socks on that have cops, cartoonish, characterized as pigs. He doesn't have to do any more. That's enough. That tells me everything I need to know, or I want to know, about Colin Kaepernick, who was raised and adopted by a nice family and really never had a tough time in the ghetto, okay? But in Colin Kaepernick's world, the cops are bad guys. They are the ones that are doing all the bad stuff, and they are the ones that we need to incarcerate. To him, Black Lives Matter. They're heroes, and blacks are always oppressed. Doesn't matter that there are black police officers, men and women, correction officers, prosecutors, black judges. And you know, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, the phony, came out recently, made a speech, and she said the entire criminal justice system is racist. Those black cops, those black prosecutors, those black judges, those black correctional officers, they're all racist. See, people that think like this, I've got a problem with them, because these are not racist. These are people that are protecting our public safety. And too many politicians go to Annapolis and Washington, and they want to protect what? They want to protect the criminal and the perpetrator. Forget about public safety. Forget about crime victims. But the thing about Nike and Kaepernick is they're elitists. They're effete snobs. You know anything about Nike? Nike's making billions of dollars. But where are they manufacturing their goods? Are they manufacturing them in America? Are young black men working in factories in America making a minimum wage or making some money for their families so that they can build a house and get an education and take care of their kids? Is that where Nike is manufacturing those tennis shoes and those outerwear? No. They're manufacturing in sweatshops around the world, in the Philippines. Young children working to build that stuff, making nothing. Because Nike is what? Nike's a bunch of effete snobs. They're slobs too. Gets me angry when these arrogant elitists try to tell the rest of us what to do and that we're wrong, and they condescend. Is Nike with the fans? The blue-collar guys and gals that go to the ball games and spend all the money, are they with them? No. What did Nike say? About 5 years ago, they made a statement. They said, "We are the biggest admirers and advocates of the sports stars." They back up 100% and support everything the sports stars do, the celebrities. That's who they are for. Now, are they for them because they admire them and their athletic ability? No, they're for them because of the money. They want them to represent Nike so they can make money. What a company. They employ sweatshops around the world. They insult the fans with this Kaepernick guy. And I'm going to tell you something. They lost 20% in sales in 1 week. They ought to lose 100%. Just like what happened in the National Football League. The radical left and the fake news, they make fun of the president. The people appreciated the fact that the president stood up. He stood up for the fans. He stood up for the blue-collar workers. He stood up for the little guys. He stood up for the average American, not the superstars. Now, I'm not saying the guys and gals who are superstars are bad people. They're not. A lot of them do a lot of good things. A lot of them have charities and legacies for young people. And they do wonderful things, so don't get me wrong about that. I understand that. And not all of them took a knee. And some took a knee, to be honest, without thinking about it. And then they thought about it, and then they didn't do it anymore. But there are some that still do. Just like in any segment of society, there are radicals and misfits. They blame America for everything. They blame the cops for everything. And think that the bad guys, the criminals, are okay. That's what America's all about today. It's not polarization. It's a mindset. There are Americans who believe in America, who believe in good things, who believe in the positive, who believe in helping the crime victims. I mean, if you're going to blame the cops, you might as well blame the firefighters. You might as well blame all the first responders. That's what's great about America. That's the guy and gal that saves your life on the side of a highway. That's the guy that runs into a burning house and saves a baby or a stranger. You're not bad guys. That's the backbone of the American spirit. Nike's not the backbone of the American spirit, and neither is Kaepernick. And Kaepernick, he has a statement. Let me see if I get this statement right. Believe in something. Yeah, well, you believe in stuff, Kaepernick, but you and Nike believe in all the wrong things. You don't believe in the exceptionalism of America and what made this nation great. No, you don't believe in that. You say, well, it's my constitutional right. It is your constitutional right, but it's not your constitutional right in a sense to insult everybody else. If you have a concern about police brutality or blacks being abused, do something in the neighborhoods. Do something with your power and your charities. Do not do it against the flag. The flag did not do it to you or those that are abused. And the national anthem is not the song of abuse. It's the song of America. This is why the country's divided. It's not the average American. It's not the silent American. It's not the cop on the street. It's not the person that works for a living that divides America. No, it's people like you that divide America. Kaepernick and Nike. Believe in something. Even if it means you sacrifice everything. What has he sacrificed? He's getting millions and millions and millions of dollars from Nike for being a bum. And he has been receiving millions from Nike and other companies and sponsors even after he took the knee. That's what America has come to in some ways. So I hope that Nike loses all the business it can. There are some people that say, well, I don't believe in boycotts. No, listen, I believe in boycotts. I believe in boycotts. You boycott them. You don't buy that crap. Listen, the radical left and the philosophy and agenda that this guy and Nike support, they're big believers in boycotts. You don't think so? You don't think so? Ask Chick-fil-A. Ask that candy company out in California. I think it's a candy company, a successful, beloved candy company just a couple of weeks ago that the radical left tried to boycott, and business went through the roof. People love the candy so much. Don't mess with candy. Or running Susan Huckabee out of a restaurant with her family. That's the radical left, ugly and nasty. This guy's the same way. Boycott. Don't buy your grandchildren this Christmas. Don't buy your children tennis shoes from Nike. Buy Under Armour. Under Armour is a local company. Do a lot of good things for charity. I'm Pat McDonough. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I've talked to you before about prison population and the prison situation in Maryland, and I've told you the prison system is broken. Very few people, actually in capital terms, go into prison in Maryland. How many times have you seen on TV reports where someone is arrested for assault or stealing an automobile or some kind of violence or even murder, and then you find out the next day they've been arrested 50 times? It happens all the time. There's very few people go out the first time and commit a murder. These people have record after record after record. That is the broken system in Maryland. That's why we suffer so much from crime. The police are told to stand down on a regular basis and not arrest people. And I want to give you an example. The last time in Baltimore City we had 194 murders, less than 200. We had 66,000 arrests. Now, we have over 300 on a regular basis now, more than any city per capita in the United States, more than Chicago. Chicago has more murders total, but we are higher percentage-wise because they are a bigger city, obviously. But when we had that 194 murders, we had 66,000 arrests. Now we have all these murders, and guess what? We have 25,000 arrests. 25,000 arrests, nobody stays in jail. There is no bail anymore. They got rid of the bail without even voting on it. And people are just right back out in the neighborhoods. And I mentioned to you about the prison system is totally broken. We've gone from 23,000 down to at least 19,000, headed for 17,000. And the gubernatorial candidate, Ben Jealous, he wants to increase 30% of the population in prison. Now, do the math. If there's 17,000, let's say there's 18,000 in there, that's 36, that's 5,000 more. Jealous wants to take it down to like 15 or 14,000. And he claims if I do that, I'll get rid of all the people who are innocent, that are drug people and that sort of thing. And we've already dropped by 23% in the prison system. Now, if you look at some of these numbers, only about 9% of Maryland's approximately 19,000 prison inmates are in for drug stuff. 9%. That's about 1,900. Okay? So where's he going to get 5,000 or 6,000? 26, 60% are in for violent crime. Murders, things like that. So the Jealous campaign claims that about half the inmates in state prisons and local jails are behind bars for probation violations. Well, that's true. They are behind bar for probation violations. Do you know why? Because they're on probation for doing something evil. They did something bad. They assaulted somebody. They sold drugs to somebody. They were a major drug dealer. But you don't stay in prison very long, so we put you out on probation. And then you violate the probation. What do? Just slap you on the wrist and say, that's okay, keep violating your probation? No, occasionally we put you back in prison. So Jealous is saying, well, you know, the people they're locking up, they're just violating probation. They're criminals. They're professionals. They're violent. They're repeat offenders. They shouldn't be on probation. In Virginia, there's 30,000 people in prison. They don't have parole except under very special circumstances. So, yes, they're on probation. I agree with that, but they shouldn't be on probation to start with. So this is what Ben Jealous wants to do in our prison system, where we are already putting people out at a record number, the highest in the state, And basically, he wants to do better. He wants to do more. Now, it gets crazier than that. Forget just the prisons, okay? The budget for the state prison system, now this is a $44 billion budget in the state of Maryland. It's a big budget, isn't it? $44 billion. Only $1.4 billion is for prisons, the state prison system. $1.4 billion, that's not that much. Now, the Jealous campaign wants to also cut into, now listen to this, the state court system, the state prison system, the state police, the local aid to public safety programs. Now, all of this totals about $252 billion. So, this guy wants to go after all the money related to the public safety, criminal justice system designed to protect you, your family, and our neighborhoods. And he wants to be governor. And let me remind you of something. If you don't already know this, the governor's position in the state of Maryland is one of the most powerful gubernatorial positions by state constitution in the whole country. So Governor Ben Jealous, oh, it scares me to death. Governor Ben Jealous. got to catch my breath. Can't believe I'm saying something like that. Governor Ben Jealous would have awesome power. He could cut those prison funds and release those people. He could cut those juvenile justice funds and put more of those young people on the streets without any incarceration. He could reduce the funding for prosecutors in the state of Maryland because he believes that they are prosecuting too aggressively and prosecuting the wrong people. So, as governor, he has that kind of power, and that's very scary. I hope you enjoyed our program, the Pat McDonough Report. I want to remind you also every Saturday evening on the WCBM, that is 680 AM radio, you can tune into the Pat McDonough Show for 2 full, glorious, captivating hours. And I'll be there because I'm Pat McDonough. So anyway, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Vino's Liquors and Bar. When you're looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more Saturday night, a little bit more downtown. Vino's Liquors and Bar, located at 3811 Old North Point Road in Dundalk, Maryland.
It's easy hiding my heroin habit from my parents. If I'm tired or don't eat, I'm just acting like a typical kid. I hide my stash in my room because I know my parents would never snoop. They don't notice the missing painkillers either, or the money I take from their wallets, but I think they're going to notice this.
The next show will start in 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Mathis Show. A busy week in politics. A lot of us thought that Judge Brett Kavanaugh would have been confirmed in the U.S. Senate last week, possibly because of Hurricane Florence. That will happen next week, September 20th, next Thursday. Looks like Brett Kavanaugh will replace Justice Kennedy on the High Court. With that being said, Dianne Feinstein coming out, evidently sandbagging some information that was given to her back in June regarding some inappropriate behavior. We don't even know fully what these accusations are regarding an individual, an anonymous individual, and Brett Kavanaugh back when he was in high school, going back well over 40 years ago. Dianne Feinstein, this information was given to her through a colleague in the U.S. Congress, handed it over to the FBI. The FBI put it in Brett Kavanaugh's folder, not investigating it, not taking it very serious. It does, however, tie into the political environment that we live in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to go back that long ago when the confirmation process of a U.S. Justice, Supreme Court Justice, was not partisan. Ginsburg, I believe 98 to nothing. Scalia, roughly the same. It was not a partisan issue. It was the United States Senate performing its most basic fundamental role, which is advise and consent, making sure that a nominee is of good moral character, making sure that they are qualified to hold the position of serving on the nation's highest court. And really no ambiguity that Brett Kavanaugh is qualified to do that. Ruth Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg, coming out saying that she was disappointed in how partisan this process has been. Kavanaugh's character being called into question right now. 65 women writing a letter of support on the moral character of Kavanaugh. And my question right now, ladies and gentlemen, in this Me Too environment that we live in right now, what are the consequences for Dianne Feinstein? Anonymity seems to be the word in Washington, D.C., whether we're talking about the book Fear from Bob Woodford, we're talking about the op-ed in the New York Times, or this nameless accuser against Brett Kavanaugh days before his confirmation to the High Court. There is one name right now, ladies and gentlemen, that is attached with these accusations, and that is Dianne Feinstein. And I do believe that she should be censured over this. There should be some accountability from somebody when you are putting somebody's career and their character on the line. Speaking of, Paul Manafort, former Donald Trump campaign chairman, for only a very short amount of time, was convicted on 8 charges of bank and tax fraud, nothing to do with the Trump campaign and absolutely nothing to do with Russia collusion. Found guilty a couple weeks ago, had a second trial coming up in Washington, D.C., copped a deal with Robert Mueller, and his attorney spoke Friday.
Tough day for Mr. Manafort, but he's accepted responsibility, and he wanted to make sure that his family was able to remain safe and live a good life. He's accepted responsibility, and this is for conduct that dates back many years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Mueller has one job and one job only in this investigation, which is to find out if there was any collusion between Donald Trump and the Russian government, the Kremlin, leading into 2016. What we know right now was there's not. As much as the media likes to focus on individuals within the Trump administration that may be guilty of various personal finance infractions, like Paul Manafort, has nothing to do with the administration itself. Question is, at what point does Paul Manafort, Robert Mueller, have to turn his hand over? As we roughly now are 60 days away from a general election. The American people have a right to know what exists or what does not exist within this investigation from Robert Mueller. Even more so, ladies and gentlemen, this plea deal that Paul Manafort copped to on Thursday, the media reporting it as though it is some sort of admission of guilt of the overall Trump administration involving Russian collusion. Reality is, guys, Paul Manafort could have been looking at spending the rest of his natural life in prison. His attorneys coming out over the last couple of days emphatically denying any Russian collusion. The media is connecting dots that do not exist right now. Not only do they not exist, not reporting the fact that the defense team from Paul Manafort is emphatically saying there was no Russian collusion, which is the entire point of the Mueller investigation. Has nothing to do with fraudulent tax returns or offshore bank accounts. None at all. I think the time is now for Robert Mueller to turn his hand over so the American people know what came out of this investigation, so they can be fully informed going to the polls in November. One of my favorite topics when it comes to politics is hypocrisy. And while it may not be funny, it's definitely ironic. Last week, a tenured professor in Nevada shot himself in the arm in a sign of protest against Donald Trump. This professor had been at the University of Nevada going back to the early 90s. We don't know a whole lot about this story because he never really explained what his frustration was with the president, other than he was frustrated enough to shoot himself in the arm with a .22 caliber gun. The gentleman does seem like a gentleman. He was nice enough to leave a $100 bill taped to the mirror in the men's bathroom where he shot himself. Note that read, "For the janitor," I guess for cleaning up his mess after he had a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The problem was, obviously, a shot to the arm is not life-threatening. The university, ironically enough, was a gun-free school zone. Also, the professor did not have a carry permit. Also, discharging any weapon, whether it's a gun-free school zone or not, on a campus university is normally not a good career move. The university spokesman said they did not know what the future of the professor would be, but I'm assuming we can probably figure it out. Ladies and gentlemen, economic strategist along with Jimmy Mathis Show political contributor Tyrone Keys joining the program. Former Secretary of State John Kerry still negotiating with the Ayatollah over in Iran, undermining this president. So if we want to talk about conspiracy with foreign adversaries, let's have that conversation, and we'll do it next. You're watching The Jimmy Mathis Show. Quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Right now we are joined by Jimmy Mathis Show political contributor and economic strategist Tyrone Keys. A lot of us thought that there would be a vote called last week in the Senate to confirm Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the High Court. Probably because of the hurricane, looks like that has been shifted to next week. Tyrone Keys, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jimmy. How you doing?
Good. Looks like there will be a roll call on Thursday, September 20th. The Democrats don't have the votes there to block this.
No.
We've talked about this in the past. This is pretty much a win for Donald Trump and the Republicans. A Hail Mary effort from Senator Dianne Feinstein coming out on Friday, floating out that these accusations that were made by another anonymous source against Brett Kavanaugh going back to his high school days, nobody putting their name on it. Feinstein, by the way, sitting on this information for quite a while, handed it over to the FBI. The FBI is not moving forward on any sort of investigation. It does go into his permanent file, and I believe that this is completely inappropriate for the senator to do this at this point, at this time, especially when she's been sitting on this information for so long.
No doubt. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it is, like so many things the Democrats are doing today, it's a threat to the overall republic, okay, to the fabric of the system that we put together. Now, we're going back to this man's senior year in high school, okay? That's number one, all right? The veracity of the claim can be challenged in that the accuser doesn't even want to come forth, all right, and say who they are. And then the rumors that are coming out about this have it being, you know, something that's minor, like he locked someone in a room. Okay, if we're going to start to examine all of our high school records, then I think we all better go in and resign first thing Monday morning, because this is just, it has gotten totally ridiculous.
I believe also for those that embrace the Me Too movement and embrace women coming forward on legitimate accusations, it diminishes that, and it cheapens those people that have been abused that are coming forward, because this is political and nothing more.
Well, that's nothing new. I mean, true feminists like Camille Paglia, for example, have a big problem with the so-called feminism of the day, which convinces some women to put on pink hats and, you know, shout obscenities in our nation's capital. So I think that there's a bifurcation in terms of true feminism, where women are not necessarily looking to diminish men, and like what they're trying to do with Kavanaugh, and the feminism that says, you know, let's go all out and just destroy everything because we don't like Donald Trump.
Look, this is a very important appointment to the High Court. This changes the power structure for possibly the next 30 years.
Sure.
Second appointment that Donald Trump has had, not even 2 years into his presidency. But at what point, because you know, the confirmation process was not always partisan. You look at Justice Scalia, Justice Ginsburg, I may have my numbers flipped on this, but Scalia, I believe, was unanimous, or at least 98.
I believe he was very, yeah.
And Ginsburg the same. I believe she had 98 votes. The confirmation process in the past was the Senate Judiciary Committee doing advise and consent, making sure that whoever the appointment was of good moral, ethical character and was able to perform the job of a Supreme Court justice, with which Brett Kavanaugh indisputably can.
Absolutely. And then, you know, just to add on to everything you've said, let's not forget, Brett Kavanaugh's background has been checked and rechecked multiple times throughout the past 25 years, because he's held a variety of positions in government. And this has never been an issue. So we have that, but also I think this started with Robert Bork.
That was the beginning of all this.
Continued on with Clarence Thomas, who called it what it was a very high-tech public lynching.
I don't mean to stop you. At least there was an Anita Hill there.
True.
There was a face to it. Correct.
Right, absolutely. And in this instance, like so much that the left does these days, it's anonymous. You know, the sources are like Bob Woodward's latest book, filled with anonymous sources.
The New York Times last Thursday.
Right.
So this is a triple threat here in the last week on all big-ticket issues. Okay? I mean, they're challenging the confirmation of a Supreme Court justice, Woodward's book, again, a lot of unnamed sources within there, and the New York Times, which is just an abomination of journalism, even though technically it was an op-ed.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like, what the end game here is it's a coordinated effort by the so-called elite to discourage outside candidacies from, taking place and flourishing. Because notice, they're attacking people on the periphery of the Trump administration and campaign, not just him. So it's a coordinated effort to really squelch anyone from coming up that's outside of the establishment. And I think the fact that the Republicans are reluctant to really attack this shows that they're complicit.
I agree with you. John Kerry, former Secretary of State, who right now is basically a citizen and nothing more. He was on Bill Maher on Friday. Comes to light last week that Kerry is still involved in diplomacy, trying to cut the legs out from President Donald Trump on the Iranian nuclear deal. We've talked extensively about the Iranian nuclear deal over the years, Tyrone. Donald Trump's stance on the Iranian nuclear deal, believing that it was bad for America, it was bad for Israel, it was bad for national security, is nothing new. He ran on this. He was very outspoken on one of the first things he would do would be to nix the nuclear deal, which is not a treaty, thanks to John Kerry. Your thoughts on Kerry legally, first of all, what he's doing, which we'll get to this in 1 second, I believe is in violation of the Logan Act. But the timing of this seems very unfortunate for the Democrats when the conversation day in, day out is collusion with adversaries.
Absolutely. And Iran has been, as per the State Department, the #1 state sponsor of terror for many, many years. Okay, we've got them on the website. Anybody can go and check it out. And this existed in John Kerry's tenure as well as Secretary of State. But this is nothing new for John Kerry. This is the same type of behavior he exhibited when he came home from Vietnam and just as a nobody went to France and started holding, talks with foreign powers. So I think personally that as I read the Logan Act, I think that it very well could be a violation. And I think the next time he lands his private jet in America, the FBI agents should meet him and arrest him.
Well, and to that point, Tyrone, not just that he's been conducting diplomacy, basically, as a U.S. citizen. He doesn't represent the country. He's not followed as an agent on the behalf of Iran.
Right.
The Logan Act, going back to 1799, it states that any citizen of the United States, whether he may be with or without authority of the United States, directly or indirectly, commences or carries on any correspondence or intercourse with any foreign government or any officer or agent thereof in relation to any disputes or controversies with the United States or to defeat the measures of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years of both. The Logan Act is not complicated and is for situations just like this where you have people that are not in authority to be negotiating on the behalf of the United States government or at the very least against it.
Absolutely, especially when we all know, by his own words, John Kerry, his advice to the Iranians is in direct contradiction to the Trump administration,
yes,
the administration that was duly elected. Okay, I don't remember voting for John Kerry. In fact, I remember voting against John Kerry when he ran for president. He is not an appointed officer of the United States government, nor is he elected.
It's also the problem, Tyrone, with back when John Kerry and Barack Obama were negotiating this agreement, and words do mean things here, the fact that it was an agreement and not a treaty, and President Obama, along with former Secretary of State John Kerry, both on the record, saying that the reason why this was not a formal treaty was because it never would have been ratified. And Ben Cardin here in the state of Maryland, along with Jeff Flake, flipping the treaty provision on its head, where you no longer needed 2/3 of the Senate to ratify the treaty, but you needed 2/3 to basically override a veto from President Obama, which would not happen. This is the problem with them using backdoor tactics to get a very dangerous nuclear deal done that fast tracks Iran to the bomb, and something that was not in harmony with our allies, i.e. Israel, or the American people.
No doubt. I mean, I think you've summed it up well. And to boot, the strength of the Trump policy towards Iran and others since he came into office is very evident in that the economic sanctions are crushing. I mean, the way he's, if you really look at Russia, okay, they're having a tough time, especially considering the fact that not only do they have the sanctions on, but we're producing more oil right now as well. As far as the Iranians are concerned, their economy is suffering. What that does is it foments popular resentment against the state. And in addition to that, I haven't seen them try to make a move on any more of our naval vessels either.
No, they were commandeering U.S. Navy ships while we were negotiating.
And
personnel, taking American sailors hostage, almost 20 of them, while we were cutting the deal, yelling death to America, death to Israel. Right. And that was dismissed as mere rhetoric, which is hilarious right now when we are focusing on every single thing that Donald Trump's tweets. Meanwhile, taking sailors hostage at gunpoint at the very point where they're negotiating the deal, which at the very least fast tracks Iran to the bomb within 10 years, if not faster.
Right, and I have never been able to understand how we could take the Obama administration approach to a theocracy whose stated mission is death to this country. Yes. How do you negotiate with that? Do you say, well, look, I understand you want death, but how about death in 20 years? Is that sufficient for you? You don't negotiate with actors like that.
Well, and I also come back to Senator Ben Cardin, who was instrumental in flipping the treaty provision on its head, who is Jewish, and you have Iran, who has made it their mission statement to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And I've never understood why the Jewish community embraces the Democrats, especially the Obama administration, to the level that they have, especially when you look at what Donald Trump has done when it comes to our relationship with
Well,
Israel.
It's the same question I have with regard to the black community when you drive through Baltimore City, Detroit, Milwaukee, and so many other cities that have been run lock, stock, and barrel by Democrats. It's like a Stockholm syndrome, I guess, but I think in many parts of the country, due to Trump's success, you're starting to see pockets of awakening.
Finally, before I let you go, Tyrone, NFL season off and running. We've talked in the past about, obviously, Kaepernick back in the news with Nike endorsing him. Nike getting taken to the woodshed on the market. The next day lost almost $3.5 billion worth of market cap. Fast forward a week, Nike has made that up. The stock is hitting new highs. Sales are up. Put Kaepernick aside for 1 second. The reality is the NFL, from a ratings standpoint, is hurting right now. The NBC game last Thursday, ratings were down, and there was an interesting piece in Barron's looking at the Dallas Cowboys, which is one of the more historic franchises within the NFL. And a lot of times when it comes to investing or real estate, you'll look at what's the most prestigious property. I'm using property as a generic term.
Sure.
When the most prestigious property gets hurt, that's sort of a bellwether for where the overall marketplace is going. And there's a reason why the Cowboys are one of those expensive franchises in the league. Revenue for the Cowboys down 10%. So removing Nike and Kaepernick out of the situation, out of the equation for 1 second, is this a little bit of a bellwether on the damage that may have been done through the various actions, protests over the last couple of years here? And can the NFL recover from this?
I actually don't know if the NFL can recover because now you've done something as a service provider that you never want to do.
Right.
You have allowed people to know that they can get along without your product, okay? Yeah. And this is America. We have no shortage of entertainment. We have no shortage of sports entertainment, especially with all of the new streaming and cable packages. You can get into everything from European Formula One racing to rugby, okay? And everything in between. So I think that the NFL has definitely lost a core audience, okay? I'm not sure if they'll level out at this kind of 10% loss level. I predict they might. I'm not sure if that's ever going to return because of another reason. You want to bring new clients into the business. And with the CTE issues that they've been having with the brain damage and whatnot, the farm team system is suffering. Now, I have a friend who is a diehard Ravens fan. He grew up on football, and he says he will not let his son play football under any circumstances because he doesn't want him to get brain damage. And I hear that from a lot of people. So I think that combined with this scandal of their own making is going to have us looking at football a lot different in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, and we're looking at the Kaepernick story that's going back over the last 2 years. You're absolutely left. There's been an assault on the NFL for the last 10 years on brain injuries, and the left had torpedoed the NFL until Kaepernick came along, and now all of a sudden that's the cash cow of liberalism and trying to be a spokesperson for this.
Sure.
Tyrone, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks,
Thank you much. Get you back really soon. Okay. Everybody, new TV show here with the Jimmy Mathis Show. Pleasure to be with you, doing it weekly. Also, check out the Jimmy Mathis podcast. Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, available at 5 a.m. You can get it off of all the normal destinations that you get podcast content: YouTube, Lisbon, SoundCloud, iTunes, anywhere where you get podcasts, you can get it. Of course, your #1 destination for the Jimmy Mathis Show should be JimmyMathisShow.com, on Twitter at Jimmy Mathis Show, and of course, Facebook. See you next week. Busy week coming up. Looks like there will be a roll call on Thursday for Judge Kavanaugh. We'll bring you all the details next week. Have a great week, everybody. See you.
This is Governor Ehrlich. You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Kathy Garver, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, this is Jerry Rochelle, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
I'm Kreskin. Now, of course, you know me as the amazing Kreskin. And guess what? I can see it in your mind. I predict you're going to be watching.
Once upon a time, I was a liberal. Well, to be honest, less than a year ago, I was still a liberal. I became a liberal because I felt I'd found a tribe whose values aligned with my own. I staunchly reject racism of any kind. I reject the marginalization of any human being based off of their gender or sexual orientation. I reject tyrannical groupthink. I reject a system which allows an ambitious, misinformed, and dogmatic mob to suppress free speech, create false narratives, and apathetically steamroll over the truth. I reject the acceptance of junk science and superstition to advance ideological agendas. I reject hate. These are the reasons why I became a liberal. And these are the same reasons why I am now walking away. For years now, I have watched as the left has devolved into intolerant, inflexible, illogical, hateful, misguided, ill-informed, un-American, hypocritical, menacing, callous, ignorant, narrow-minded, and at times, blatantly fascistic behavior and rhetoric. Liberalism has been co-opted and absorbed by the very characteristics it claims to fight against. For years now, I've watched as people on the left have become anesthetized to their own prejudices and bigotry, and the prejudices and bigotry of those around them who echo their values. I have watched as formerly sensible people who claim to reject racism have come to embrace the principles of universally hating and blaming all of society's problems on all people who have white skin. I have witnessed the irony of advocacy for gender equality morph into blatant hatred and intolerance of men and masculinity. I have seen the once earnest fight for equality for the LGBT community mutate into an illogical demonization of heteronormativity and the push to vilify and attack our conventional concepts of gender. These same self-proclaimed victims of intolerance now turning on the gay community that they attached themselves to advance their agenda, now calling gay people privileged and themselves victims of injustice. I have watched as the left has allowed themselves to become hypnotized by false narratives and conclusions perpetuated by social justice warriors who misrepresent and misconstrue facts, evidence, and events to confirm their own biases that everyone who does not comply with their prejudicial conclusions and follow their orders is a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, a white supremacist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, and alt-right extremist. And I have watched as they have used these heartless and carelessly assigned labels to intimidate, threaten, bully, silence, attack, unemploy, blacklist, and destroy anybody who dares to fight back. They'll come for me, and then they'll come for you. And worst of all, the Democratic Party and the liberal media has embraced, affirmed, aided, and abetted this cult ideology. In an effort to gain voters and maintain power, the Democratic Party that I once loved has joined forces with the extremist left. The Democratic Party and the liberal media now believe their own ill-gotten conclusions and have ominously decided that they, and only they, know the remedy for society's ills. The left has decided that the solution to problems with race relations in America is more racism. The left believes that attacking, insulting, and dehumanizing one group of people elevates another. The left now believes that there are no boundaries when telling lies, omitting the truth, or misrepresenting facts when telling the news, because their end justifies their means. The left has now decided that its point of view is the only acceptable one, and that suppressing, censoring, and banning open dialogue and debate is virtuous and progressive. The Democratic Party has adopted a deleterious belief system happily and without skepticism, separating people into groups based off of identity and then organizing them into camps of victims and oppressors. If you are a person of color, an LGBT person, a woman, or an American immigrant, the Democratic Party wants you to know that you are a victim and destined to stay that way. They will insist that you are a victim doomed to exist within a system that is rigged against you, that you are a victim of systemic oppression, that you are a victim of your circumstances, and that no amount of hard work or motivational action will ever allow you to overcome your victimhood or the privilege of those around you. This is perhaps the Democratic Party's greatest and most insidious lie. But if you are a minority in America today, the left-wing politicians and the liberal media don't want you to ever discover this lie. So they bombard us with stories designed to reinforce the narrative that you are in danger, that you cannot succeed. They manipulate your fears and concerns by telling you that you are disadvantaged, disempowered, and disposable to everyone except them. They will tell you that you need them. They will tell you that you are only safe under their supervision. They will promise to liberate you from all that chains you. And then they will do absolutely nothing for you. Once upon a time, I was a liberal. But liberalism has changed, and I will no longer be a part of an ideology or political party that represents everything that contradicts my values of unity, equal opportunity, personal empowerment, compassion, and love. So I am walking away. And I encourage all of you to do the same. Walk away.
This is Sean Quinn. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Maryland Governor, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
If you want better from Washington, and who doesn't, what do you want from your representative in Congress? If you're looking for someone who has compiled a record of accomplishment during his 12 years in the U.S. House, it's not John Sarbanes. If you're looking for someone who can take the healthcare innovations being pioneered right here in Maryland down to Washington as remedies to the Affordable Care Act, it's not John Sarbanes. If you're looking for someone who has proven through his actions a sincere respect for the voting rights and the voting power of all his constituents, it is definitely not John Sarbanes. And if you're looking for someone who has refused to engage in blind partisanship, who has refused to stoke the hysteria in Washington, it is also definitely not John Sarbanes. So if you want better from Washington, vote for me, David Lasher, who has accomplished both inside and outside of government. Me, David Lasher, who knows the innovative Maryland model for health care and will take it to Washington to repair the Affordable Care Act. Me, David Lasher, who will reduce the power of money, incumbency, and party bosses, who will promote political competition and expand voter choice. Me, David Lasher, who will engage in forthright but respectful debate. Restore your voice, restore your vote, make history. With me, David Lasher, Libertarian for Congress, this November. Thank you.
Why do so many fellow Democrats refuse to support Ben Jealous? Because Jealous is too extreme for Maryland.
Go ahead, call me a socialist.
Jealous would raise your taxes, and his radical, irresponsible proposals would destroy our economy. A nonpartisan analysis says his health care plan alone could cost an extra $2,800 from every man, woman, and child.
Go ahead, call me a socialist.
Maryland can't afford Ben Jealous as governor.
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear, that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think the communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us.
Well,
I don't even trust you to do that.
This is a little treatise on basic economics called The Modern Little Red Hen. Once upon a time, there was a little red hen who scratched about the barnyard until she uncovered some grains of wheat. She called her neighbors and said, "If we plant this wheat, we shall have bread to eat. Who will help me plant it?" "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the duck. "Not I," said the pig. "Not I," said the goose. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. The wheat grew tall and ripened into golden grain. "Who will help me reap my wheat?" asked the little red hen. "Not I," said the duck. "Out of my classification," said the pig. "I'd lose my seniority," said the cow. "I'd lose my unemployment compensation," said the goose. "Then I will," said the little red hen, and she did. At last it came time to bake the bread. "Who will help me bake bread?" asked the little red hen. "Oh, that'd be overtime for me," said the cow. "I'd lose my welfare benefits," said the duck. "I'm a dropout and never learned how," said the pig. "Well, if I'm to be the only helper, that's discrimination," said the goose. "Then I will," said the little red hen. She baked 5 loaves and held them up for her neighbors to see. They all wanted some, and in fact demanded a share. But the little red hen said, "No, I can eat the 5 loaves myself." "Excess profits," cried the cow. "Capitalist leech," screamed the duck. "I demand equal rights," yelled the goose. And the pig just grunted. And they painted unfair picket signs and marched round and round the little red hen, shouting obscenities. When the government agent came, he said to the little red hen, "You must not be greedy." "But I earned the bread," said the little red hen. "Exactly," said the agent. "That's the wonderful free enterprise system. Anyone in the barnyard can earn as much as he wants. But under our modern government regulations, the productive workers must divide their product with the idle." And they lived happily ever after. including the little red hen, who smiled and clucked, "I am grateful, I am grateful." But her neighbors wondered why she never again baked any more bread.
4 years ago, people were fleeing Maryland. 43 tax hikes, even taxing the rain. 100,000 jobs lost. So we elected Larry Hogan. $1.2 billion in tax toll and fee relief. Highest ever funding for schools. Healthiest bay in a generation. Maryland's back. When we needed a leader, Hogan was there. And when he needed us, we returned the favor. Larry Hogan, changing Maryland.
My name's Tony Campbell, and I approve this message. If you want the end of Common Core, if you want to protect our children, if you want a balanced budget in Washington, D.C., if you want to protect our veterans and make sure they get the care that they need, if you also want to end chain migration and a diversity lottery, then I'm your candidate for the United States Senate. My name's Tony Campbell. I'm a Republican for the United States Senate, paid for by Campbell for Maryland.
Hi, this is Cindy Williams, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
This is Gunhild Carling, and you are watching TV Free Baltimore. No, you are not watching. You have to watch TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
My name is Bob Cockey, and I need your help. I'm running for the state delegate seat in the Maryland 12th Legislative District. I'm not a politician, and I'm not a lawyer. Annapolis has enough of those. It's time that we separate and put party politics aside and work as one big team. We've got some serious problems facing us. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm against crime, I'm against high taxes, I'm against the opioid problem. Of course I am, but they're just catchphrases for other politicians. What I want to tell you is that on February the 9th, I got up, I grabbed a tie and a jacket, and I put it on. My wife said, "Where are you going, Bob?" I said, "I'm going to go apply for a job." She said, "What?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Where?" I said, "Annapolis." This is a true story, by the way. I'm not making this up. She said, "What job are you going to apply for?" I said, "I'm going to apply for the House of Delegates." I said, "Enough is enough. I'm tired of sitting back watching. I'm going to take part in this." She says, "You don't have a chance, Bob." I said, "Well, we'll see. We'll see." What I want to tell you is we have to run our government like you run your household. We have a budget. We have to stick to it. We just can't keep raising taxes. I know what it's like as a small businessman. We have a flat tire the same day your gas and electric bill comes in. When the governor says we need an inspector general to see where the money's going into Baltimore City, he's 100% right. By being smart stewards of the money that we have, we can all have new schools. We can have programs to help children and adults with special needs. I guess I might want to say that I'm on a platform of a level playing field. And I don't just mean race. I don't just mean religious backgrounds. I'm talking about a level playing field in every section. What's good for Glenelg and Howard County is good for Elk Ridge. What's good in Towson is also good for Lansdowne. We all pay the same taxes. We should all reap the same benefits. 20 to 30% cost overruns in government contracts, whether it's in a school system, whether it's in building a road, has become a common everyday practice. Another thing we have to watch out for is, I spent all day in Annapolis a couple weeks ago. They were trying to get a bill through called the SAFE Act, and that was just a disguise to make Maryland a sanctuary state. Listen, I'm not against immigrants. This country was built on immigrants. But what I am in favor of is legal immigrants, and it's not fair to the immigrants that came here through the legal process. Our immigrants built this country, and they're still a big part of what goes on in this country. America is a great country, and that's why everybody wants to come here. But we have to pay attention to what's going on. We need to decide who our real heroes are, and by smart financial responsibility, we can pay our teachers, our firefighters, and our policemen what they deserve. They're our real heroes, not somebody that catches the ball. Let's get real with this, okay? I'm not just new to this area. The Cockey family came to Maryland in 1676. I've lived in the 12th district for over 32 years. I've umpired Little League games. My wife retired from the system in education after 30 years. My son is a volunteer firefighter at the Elk Ridge Fire Department. So we're not new to this area. I love the state of Maryland, and that's why I'm getting involved. Whether you vote for me or if you vote for someone else, I need you to vote. We need to wake up and get involved and see what's going on in our state. Thank you. My name is Bob Cockey. Visit me on my website, Elect Bob Cockey, or visit my personal Facebook page. It's not a political Facebook page. You can see what I've been doing and talking about for the last several years on my personal Facebook page. On the election ballot, my personal phone number is on there, my cell phone. You don't have to go through any voicemails. You'll call me directly. Thanks for listening to my message.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Maryland Politics. I'm your host, Derek Sterling, and this evening in the TV Free studios, we have running for Maryland Senate, Miss Chrissy Digman. She also goes by Chrissy. Welcome to the station. How are you this evening?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very, very good, and it's a pleasure to actually have you here in the studio with us. And you know, I'll jump right out the gate, and my first question to you would be, why are you even running for office? That's my first question.
Baltimore needs a choice. They haven't had a choice in over 75 years. They've been making the wrong choices, getting the same results. That's the definition of insanity, and I think I can do a better job than Ferguson.
So you're running against Bill Ferguson?
Yes, sir.
And how long has he actually been in his position?
He was voted in 2010, and the incumbent before him was 6 terms.
6 terms?
Yes.
I mean, that's, so how long does a term actually consist of?
4 years.
4 years? Okay. Wow. That's a long time. That's a long time in office. I mean, so you feel as though during his tenure, he hasn't done a very good job? I mean, and I always say that as a light question, because that's a question that could be so loose. It's such a long period of time to actually say that one has done a fabulous job or even a really bad job, because it's politics, and it's the governing of the masses. So it's probably pretty difficult. I'm not a politician, but it's probably pretty difficult to have everything just go great during your tenure for such a long period of time. I mean, would you agree with that?
I would agree with that too. And the thing is, it's not whether he's doing a good job or a bad job. It's just the fact that he's not doing anything that's progressive. And I don't mean progressive in the socialistic sense. I mean progressive is that we're still in the same status quo. We've had riots. Nothing's changing in Baltimore City schools. They're actually getting worse. Taxes may not be going up. Tax rate may be the same, but they're assessing houses now higher. So we're really back. We're stagnant. Nothing's moving.
What needs to happen right now? I mean, in your vision, of what you actually, why you're even running for Maryland Senate. I mean, what do you think needs to happen right now?
There needs to be accountability. There needs to be people, and they have to stop. This is going to be hard for me to say. Okay, what it is that there's all these people doing these jobs, and everybody has their favorite person doing this job. Okay, so then, you've got people in Baltimore City that are not being accountable for money that's going into Baltimore City. These kids can't keep, in the wintertime, or with coats and with jackets and blankets. And I know my girlfriend's kids were like that this winter. It's like, how can you say that that's a good idea and that you're doing a good job when kids are ending up like this? We still have kids that are out on the street. I've got a toddler across the street from me that is running up and down the street, that should probably get stricken out because then they're going to exactly know who I'm talking about. But, you know, it's just there needs to be accountability. There's 13 agencies in Baltimore. They're not being audited for any reason other than the fact that, oh, they're not ready to be audited, but they're still writing checks.
These 13 agencies, who are they?
It's, you know, the transportation and health and everything. And I don't know the agencies by heart, so it's just that's probably not a good question.
well, and I didn't really expect you to answer
that right off the cuff.
Name all 13 of them, but you pretty much got to the point just by mentioning a couple of them.
Okay, good.
And those are big companies, so whose responsibility is it to even audit those kind of agencies?
Our comptroller.
Our comptroller. And who is the comptroller right now in the state of Maryland?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, that's fine. I mean,
okay, that's one thing I don't know.
We can do research and find out who that individual is. And, you know, these are the questions. This is what we have to find out. You know, it's about getting to the bottom of what's happening. Who's responsible? You know, we always say, any problem that you're having. Me living in my community, I would say, who do I talk to if I'm having issues that involve the streets in my neighborhood, or who do I reach out to? And there would be somebody that would say, well, why don't you call your councilman?
Right.
So then I have to find out who my councilman is.
Right. You got to figure out what district you're in.
What district I'm in, and this is what I'm saying. It's for, you know, for somebody like me, I need to know who I can go to. If I don't know that person's name, what their jobs are, that's why they can evade so much for so long.
That's right.
People don't know who to go to. And this is what you're saying, essentially. This gentleman was in this position for over 20-something years, and he's not doing much.
No.
You know, like what, you know, when you have that much power, you're supposed to be bettering the things that you promised in your districts that you promised that you would do. And it should, over a certain period of time, you should be able to see progress. And that's what you said, you should be able to see some kind of progression, and we're not seeing that.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess basically, somebody like yourself, you know, as a woman who believes strongly in, you know, the conservative Republican Party in a primarily Democratic state.
Yes.
Do you honestly feel as though you can make an impact if given that position?
Somebody has to stand. Somebody has to start, and somebody has to go out on the front line. And I'm not adverse to that at all. The thing is, when people don't understand is that the conservative message really is what we can take from the church also. You need to know who your neighbors are on your street. When you're having issues, you need to start with your community association first. Usually the community associations have a police officer there, and they should have a representative from the city government there also. There should be a liaison between the city government and the community association. So when you get that and you get the people and numbers, and we start making phone calls, we start doing emails, and we start, you know, getting with each other when, you know, like on our block, if we need a trash pickup because they've dumped their trash in the back. My girlfriend over on across the street from me, she texts me, she said, I just called 311 to get the trash picked up again. I call 311, then my neighbor calls 311. So there's 3 or 4 of us calling on the same problem. They have 3 or 4 things. They know people are paying attention.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're getting people that you're paying attention to, and they're starting to, your voice is heard, then they start doing things for you, or at least doing things to, you know, to get things handled in the way that they should. But I just don't think things are getting handled right now. A lot of stuff is getting pushed under the rug. A lot of people aren't being accountable for anything, and that's what I said. You know, I'm out of nowhere. I only started in politics in 2011. Okay. I went to an LPAC seminar in Virginia, and I was just totally floored. I've kind of lived my life like, okay, this is good. I think I'm voting for the right person. I never really got involved. But when I really saw how horrible this whole system is. It was just like somebody has to do something. I got elected to the Republican Central Committee. I tried to do activist work, but it's just so hard to get people that believe that, oh yeah, you should tax me because we need money for schools. You know, it's okay to have people to gamble in the middle of the city because we need money for schools. They don't understand. Things are already dedicated to the school systems, so all of this erroneous taxes that people are saying that they are being told that are being fed to the schools are never even really making it. So this is the whole thing, is that people are just believing anything that comes out of City Hall, hook, line, and sinker. They're believing everything that's coming out of Annapolis, hook, line, and sinker. And what Governor Hogan has done in the last 4 years has just been a complete turnaround of making it easier for me to get to work, for me to go visit my mother-in-law because of the Easy Pass system. I mean, it's just like so much has changed, and you saw progression with what he's done. You know, and then so you've seen taxes go down. You've seen a balanced budget. So he's doing what he needs to do. Now there's someone that's coming up against him that just wants to give the state away, and we can't afford to do that. And like I said, there's not that many Republicans that are out there. There's Victor Clark, who's running for Senate for Legislative District 45. And it's like we're so few and far between because nobody else wants to stand. And I'm just at the point now where it's like, go ahead, take your best shot.
Well, how bad do you think? How bad do you think things are right now in District 46?
I think it's pretty nasty. I mean, you know, they keep saying that we're so rich down there, and they keep feeding people these lies. But the thing is, you can't like drive a street without almost going subterranean because of the potholes. It's just the trash is on the street. There is so much crime. You know, there's 190 murders so far this year. You know, Sandtown is not in my district, but the thing is with that, that's the highest murder rate. And then the second one is Brooklyn, where I live. You know, so nothing's changing. And it's just, we're behind enemy lines.
They just started doing repairs on the Curtis Bay Bridge. I mean, that bridge is horrible. Like, I go over that bridge sometimes, and I mean, like, rebar was popping up. It was terrible. And then, like, not too long ago, they started patching it up. So I don't know how long that patchwork, or they even think that patchwork is going to last.
It doesn't.
It doesn't last long.
I don't understand. We can put a man on the moon, so to speak, but we can't fix the deck. And really, it really is the deck that needs to be replaced. The understructure, that I was told by an engineer that it's like that could withstand a bomb. But the thing is, it's the deck that's, and then of course you've got all these buses that are coming through. We have all of this 18-wheeler traffic.
Yeah, because that's 18-wheeler central right there. I mean, lots of tractor trailers travel in that area. I mean, you got that what's that? What newspaper place right there? I can't think of it.
Sun Papers right there, and then that's Port Covington. But coming towards the bridge, though, Fairfield is back there where 895 is, and all of that's industrial now. So they come out of there, they come straight off and go right over the bridge, and then they get on 95. And don't even try to get on 95 because you just really have to go like 10 miles an hour, or else you're going to lose an axle.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I know from experience, you know. But you know, that's road wear and tear. I mean, everywhere you're going to be subject to road wear and tear, and the areas that you have more heavy vehicles, 5-ton and up, the roads are most likely going to look worse and be worse. And it also depends on maintenance, of course. Now, and that's where I would say I don't understand what's going on over there, because you know that's a heavily traveled area. And that means you have to focus a little bit more, actually a lot more, on reparations to the roads. But, you know, that's a whole nother story. I wanted to also ask you, what position are you actually serving now on the political side here? It says you are currently serving as the second vice chairperson of the Republican Central Committee?
Yes.
So what's that like? What does that entail? What actually are you required to do?
I'm the backup. I'm the backup because we have our chair, and when the chair can't perform his duties or go to an executive meeting, our first vice chair, which is Shannon Wright, she attends for him, and if something happens and neither one of them can make it, then I'm the third in line.
Okay. So, you know, I guess I'm always inquisitive about, what are hours like? You just get up every day? I mean, you have a regular day job as well, right?
Yes.
Is that, so, how do you find time to do this? Because I always wonder that with everybody that comes in here and, I interview them, and it takes so much time to do everything just to get their names out there, to get their message out there, to go to all these meet and greets, to try to get your message out to the public. And then you have a daytime job, and you have families, and it's almost like you don't have any time for anything extracurricular. I mean, it really takes a lot of your day and your week from week to week, I'm sure.
It does. I have a part-time job I'm a contractor, subcontractor for the government. I take people in high secure places and make sure they don't touch stuff. So that's my 2-day-a-week, Monday, Tuesday job. The rest of the week is basically mine because I do real estate and I can sell life insurance. So I basically can make my appointments and make my days around when I'm doing things. I also serve at the Well, which is a women's outreach in Curtis Bay, and so that's 2 hours on a Thursday, which is the women's Bible study. And all of this is centered around prayer. I really, for some reason, I have so much to do, and there is so much to do. God stretches my time. And it's amazing, how many people have come on board to pick things up when I can't do it. And it's like, and instead of just telling me, you need to go out and do this because you're running now, and they don't even give me a list. I actually have people that are giving me physical list and email and holding me accountable every day. And I've got people praying for me besides that. And there's a lot of encouragement going on because this is really, you're getting shots fired over your head, so to speak. Because like you said, we're basically behind enemy lines. No one wants to really talk to you. They don't really care what you're doing because they don't see me as any significant threat. But the thing is, though, it's like, I think people are tired of being tired. And at least this way, like I said, Baltimore's going to have a real choice. Now, you can go ahead and vote him back in, and that's fine. But then I'm just going to come back around and I'll run for Councilmatic District again. Ed Reisinger is the one that, he knew my mom when we were growing up. My mom was always calling him and asking him, get things done, get things done. And I told Ed, I said, when we were going to do a debate, we were in the back, I said, well, my dad was a police officer, 27 years Southwest District. I said, they made me. I said so, and at that time, he's like, he walked away from that one because he's like, he knows that I'm kind of consistent. I have a work ethic, and I'm not going to let it go. There's always a way of fixing something.
Yeah, I agree with you, and why would you? And you got to stay diligent.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you a couple, could be difficult questions. Being a God-fearing woman, what is your stance on guns and gun control? That's a big issue in the U.S. right now. What's your stance? What's your take?
Everybody should be armed, and they should know how to load and unload a gun, and they should be trained in it. The more people that are trained, the less people are going to get hurt. The criminals don't care. They are just going to obtain the guns, no matter how they obtain the guns. But law-abiding citizens can't even get a concealed carry permit in Baltimore City unless you have a really good reason, like you're carrying money for your business or things like that, because self-defense is not even in question. And to me, that's teaching the younger generation, besides what we do with how we feel about life in general, it's not precious. It's not, your life doesn't matter. As long as I get my tax money and you work for what you do and you just go on and don't make it too hard for me, that's fine. But the thing is, everybody has a reason for being here. And God has a reason for everybody being here. And that's what it really gets down to. And to let those people do what they need to do, they need to be protected. And especially these little ones in school. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, I'm too afraid to touch a gun. I mean, I stood with a woman in a gun training class, and she was literally crying because she was so afraid. I'm like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't shoot people. The people that are holding it shoot the people. And we got through that, and now she's armed and she understands how to use her firearm, and she knows what to do with it, and that's the whole point of it. If people can actually be taught what they need to do, there should be no issue of it. Besides, one trained person can stop the excessive murders that we're having when something comes out and you're in a large crowded area.
I agree. We're well spoken. I agree. We're definitely becoming way too complacent when it comes to that.
That's a good point.
I have another difficult question for you. What is your take on abortion? And now let me
I'll let you go segue into that.
Because abortion is a tough issue.
Mhm.
Okay, you can be pro-choice, you can be against it. Okay. However, scenarios should matter in a way. Would you agree? Such as a woman being violently raped to be in that position. How do you feel about that? I mean, you know, when you really put all as many scenarios as you can kind of couple into, you know, someone being put in a situation to make that decision or have to make that decision. How do you feel about that?
Okay, I'm going to say something, and I'm not sure if you're going to want to segue this out. I don't know, you made a fist at me, so I don't know if that was good or not. Okay, I have been raped, and so you cannot tell me that just because a man and a woman are together, that baby comes from God. God has ordained every life on this earth. And there's been rape in the Bible. Mm-hmm. You know, Dinah was raped. So to me, that's not an excuse. The child had no bearing on, I don't care if you say you can't look at the child, give the child up for adoption. Right. But every life has a reason to be here.
And that's why she ended up pregnant. I mean, you know, it's, I just love that answer. I have to be completely honest with you. I did not.
I've never told anybody about that, so I don't know if anybody's going to get, you know. And
you're very brave, I have to say, first and foremost, for even stating that, whether we decide to keep that in or not. But I just wanted to say, you know, that's very brave. Thank you for making that statement, especially after having being a victim yourself. Mm-hmm. So that is just remarkable. I don't believe that it even just took place, but I'm very, very like astounded by your answer, you know, because that's tough. That's very tough. And myself, or, you know, no man, or just, you know, somebody who hasn't been through what you've been through could even possibly understand what you went through to even give a statement like that. So,
or to even come public about it.
To even speak publicly about it.
But the thing is, there's evil in the world, and God can't stop your free will. So if you're going to be free will and you're going to go out and do something to somebody else, there are going to be repercussions for your sin. But the thing is, the child shouldn't have to suffer. Like I said, separate DNA from the mom. Yep. They are an individual from the time that they're conceived. And if you think that you created life, you just had a hand in it. You know, you're just the vessel. And that's all we are. We are the vessel.
Yeah, it's an awesome, amazing answer. So, okay, well, let's lighten the mood a little bit.
We want to lighten the mood a little bit? Okay. Let's go to finger painting. I'm good at that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's obvious you're a very strong person. Mm-hmm. I picked up on that the moment you walked in here. And, you know, your attitude is awesome. You don't exactly fit the mold. You didn't come in here and you know, with a suit and tie, like, you
and
know,
expect tea. Was there tea?
Right. And so I like the naturalism about you. You know, you bubble with that type of that aura, and I think that's what we need. We need, you know, a lot of people had issues with President Trump and how loose he was about things that he said and you know, whatever alleged remarks or statements or whatever you want to call it that he said to females.
His Twitter feed's on fire.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, since I did bring up the president, you know, being a Republican and you being a Republican yourself, I mean, how do you feel as though our current president is doing right now?
He's calling the shots. He said, the thing is, though, you got to realize the media is owned. And so what he's trying to do is to let people know what's going on without having any filters attached to it. And that's what it is. This is all that really needs to happen. People need to wake up find out what's actually going on instead of being enamored by what's going on with football season and who's taking a knee for this and who's not taking a knee for that. He's saying what he needs to do, and he's doing what he said, and he's actually repairing a lot of damage that this country's been in. And I just hope people back him for 2020.
Yeah, it's me personally, and a lot of times I don't really state how I feel about certain things like that, but I've noticed an incline in everything, and I believe if we looked up the numbers right now, you would see a substantial increase in jobs, employment. Everywhere I go, driving around, there's all kinds of construction, you name it. Virginia, Pennsylvania, DC, all over Maryland.
People are working.
Cranes everywhere. There's tower cranes. There's jobs galore. And if you don't have a job right now, it's basically because you haven't sought it hard enough and diligent enough, because jobs are there. Everybody's hiring. Every sign, everywhere you look, there's something going on, and all you have to do is get yourself involved. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. You know, it's again, I mentioned earlier, tough positions. These positions are not easy positions. I personally would not try to run for a position like that because you have so much weight on you and it's such a big responsibility. There's no ducking. There's everything that happens is your fault.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I actually personally, I commend people like yourself, like Tony Campbell, people like that who come in here and, you know, leave from the station and do what they say they're going to do. They keep fighting, and they encourage others to do the same. So I got another question for you. Again, lifting the mood, do you admire any particular politician right now who's currently serving a term? I mean, is there anybody, or even somebody who's not serving? Was there anybody that really inspired you to get into politics the way you have?
Ron Paul. And, you know, that was back in the 2000 part when I started getting connected with all those people and finding out what the Leadership Institute was and things like that. A lot of this is just people I admire when people say what they're going to do and then they do it. And a lot of times I don't really, and I don't want to say that I admire people, because there's only one man that I admire, and that's Jesus Christ. And so I have no false sense of worship to anybody, and I have no allegiance to anybody down here. I know who I have to face at the end of my life. And as long as I hear the good, you know, well done, faithful servant, that's what I'm aiming for. So I'm trying to walk in the way that he would want me to walk. And so that's kind of a hard answer, so.
No, but that's the truth. Again, you're just, as far as I'm concerned, you're hitting everything right on the head. These are the things that I look for. If I turn on my TV and I see you there and you're saying the same things that you said when we had this interview, and, you know, nothing has wavered, and, you know, the numbers might not be rolling in for you at the time, but you haven't backed down at all, and you're going to stick to your guns. I mean, and
guns is a good word, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Of course I would use the word guns.
Guns, yeah.
But you know, even to that point, that was an excellent point. Protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the bad guys, they have the guns.
Yes.
They go get them. Most of them are illegally possessed, okay? And they don't have any remorse.
No.
They don't care if you're an infant. They don't care if you're 70-something years old.
Or a 4-year-old that's in somebody's truck when they do a drive-by.
They do not care. So why wouldn't you want to have a significant first line of defense, especially when you're in the company, or you're responsible for somewhat protecting a group of individuals.
Yeah.
So, and namely kids. We're talking about kids.
In the schools and everything.
In the schools. So, I mean, again, we're all entitled to our opinion. This is how I feel about it. You know, I grew up in a military family, whether that has something to do with it or not. It's regardless at this point. You know, it's happening too frequently, and now it's more of like it's too consistent. It's more of like like a epidemic's not the right word, because that seems more like something that's contagious. But that's the way it feels, doesn't it? It's almost like it feels like that. Like, oh, well, these guys did it. Kyle and Bonnie did it there. This guy down here in Florida, he's shooting up places. You got people running in theaters. Now they're shooting up gaming conventions. I mean, like, the people, it can happen at any given time, and it's usually happening in areas where there's
zones.
Yeah. So what is the problem?
They don't want us to be able to protect ourselves. And that's what it gets down to. I mean, I grew up, my father was a police officer, 27 years Southwest District. There were guns in my house. Right. And so, you know, if I came in late and I could hear the click of the gun at the top of the stairs, because my dad was like, you don't break curfew in my house, you know, because you know when he walks, because he's there to protect the rest of the family. And so it is what it is. And kids don't, if they're going to shoot each other, then you're not, number one, educating them enough. Number two, they're not locked up properly and where they need to be. There are so many options nowadays. You can do it by fingerprint, and you can still be able, I mean, we run drills in our house. You know, I mean, we have a scenario, you know, and when my husband has to travel. So I know what's going on, and people, you know, like my husband will come in and we have an inside alarm that lets me know that he's coming in the house and he's coming up the steps. You know, because it's a bad neighborhood, and, you know, he doesn't want me screaming like some crazy woman and people thinking that he's killing me.
Sure, I understand that.
What is it? So the psycho scream is what I was trying to think of. Yeah, because the psycho scream, I go off on that. You know, I can do that pretty good.
Just to have a routine, an exercise, something to drill. You know, just like you would do in a school. I see it all over the place now. I'll go places and I see groups of people standing out of these office buildings. And all it is an exercise, you know, which way to go, corral everybody, check for who's not, you know, present.
Who's there and who. The other thing is that the NRA actually has got a program called Refuse to be a Victim. And we've went through that, and we've also were able to teach that to other people. And it makes you look at your house as if it was, you know, if you look at your eyes through somebody's wanting to come and take your stuff. So how your bushes look, how your front door is, whether or not you have an alarm system or not, whether or not you have those lights that turn off and turn on. And that was something that was brought up in our community association, that if we have more lights along the sides of the houses in the back, so that light shines on the people that are doing the drugs back there, when they're doing the illegal dumping of all the trash, they may think twice about going back there and doing that kind of stuff. Right. You know, and then hopefully, but it all comes down to the basic thing: know who you are and who you are in Christ, and then you take that message to your neighbor. You know who your neighbors are, and then you stick with your neighbors, and you all work together to make it a better place to live. You go through the community association, you go through the proper channels, and when things don't work, then you just need to stand a little louder and talk a little more.
Yeah, I agree. So is there a good book, a political book that you've read? And I'm pretty sure you read a lot. And if there is a good one out there, is there one that you would recommend to people?
The Bible.
The Bible. You know, and
do you know how many military campaigns are in there?
Yeah,
do you know
I was just about to say
I mean, they've got judges, they've got kings, people are having affairs, people are killing people, people are sending people to the front to die. I mean...
So you acknowledge the fact, because a lot of people like to use as a rebuttal or reasoning to kind of disown or not believe in what the Bible emphasizes because of all the killing and all the, you know, things that have happened to this day still that are in the Bible, and that's kind of how, you know, our society where we derive from. How do you feel about that? Is that something that you buy into that? Because I already kind of know the answer because
there's nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun.
It's just the way, it's the cycle of life. Would you not agree?
I would agree.
That's what that's been my conclusion, my analyzation. It's kind of the cycle of life. We live here in the flesh form. It's not meant to last forever. There is going to be you know, some kind of surmise, and it will happen sooner or later. And we don't really have total control. We can kind of, you know, navigate it, you know, our physical form, but then after that, then, you know, off to whatever plane of existence we go from there. But But that's just the way it is, and you know, catastrophes are going to happen.
Yes.
Natural disasters are going to happen.
Act of God.
So I mean, I didn't want to steal your thunder there, but I understand.
But that's so true because you get it, and that's what's so hard is to finally talk to somebody that actually gets this. It's like it's nothing new. This is the way life has been. Yeah. You know, we have people that are bad. We have people that are good. We have people that are trying, and you can't blame everything on one person. But you can also realize that if they changed some of the parameters and the way that we play the game by. Things could be a lot better around here, and no one's willing to say you need to stop this. You know, you need to be accountable for this, and nobody's, like I said, they don't have a choice. Yeah. They're saddled with the same people that have been running for the same system. Yep. I mean, the things that we've elected in Baltimore City, I don't even. It's just. We only have a half an hour or something. You know, I could go into a lot, but it's like it's just sad. It just it makes you.
We'll bring you back, and we can touch on it a little bit.
It makes you want to do things different.
So, if people want to reach you, because you have such a positive message, and you know, positive is just one choice word that I'll use right now, but informative. There's a couple other words I could use. When people would like to reach you, can you give a couple different ways they can get in touch with you, website, social media, things of that nature?
My website is digmanforbaltimore.com. My Facebook is Digman for Baltimore, and Twitter is Digman for Senate.
Yeah, because you know people like to actually reach out to others that they actually really believe are listening, and that's what I've noticed. You know, I wouldn't be so quick, and I'm not by myself. I wouldn't be so quick to, like we mentioned earlier, call my councilman, my city or my county councilman, because I live in a county, because I just don't think anything's going to get done.
You don't think your voice is going to be heard?
Yeah, I mean, like,
and it's like, why bother?
It's a waste of time when. You know, if I'm so disturbed with my neighborhood, and I'm going to make this sound a lot easier said than done, but you know, when you're fed up, you make changes in your life. We all do. I'm not living here anymore.
You get a bad report from the doctor. All of a sudden, you stop drinking. You drinking soft drinks, and you eat organic. You know, exactly.
If you want to feel better, then you make the necessary changes, and it's almost by force. Yeah. Okay, but in some cases, there are people you can talk to. Now, not saying that you can make some kind of miraculous change for somebody, but that's the point in, you know, getting that information out there. Again, I'm talking with Chrissy Digman. She is running for Maryland Senate in District 46. You can reach her at digmanforbaltimore.com. That's her website. And again, before we get out here, she's got a Twitter page and also Facebook, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you mention it one more time?
Well, Digman for Baltimore for Facebook and Digman for Senate for Twitter.
Yeah, so I don't want to take any more of your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
This has been a lot of fun for me. I did not think this was going to be as easy as
it is. I told you, I couldn't. I'm so glad you said that because before closing,
we were nervous all over the place.
I wanted to make sure that you felt comfortable. And here at TV Free, we treat all our guests this way. We want people to come here and be the voice. You know, this is why this place was created. We've done it. We've had some pretty, big name people. Yeah. We've had people that are trying to get their names out there. So we don't really care about the caliber of guests. We just want people to have a great message that we can help spread. Yeah. You know, this is TV Free Baltimore. It kind of stems from, you know, not like your average television program.
Exactly.
TV without the regular TV, so it's regular TV free.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We're not average TV.
You're not owned by anyone.
We're not owned by anybody.
And I was not given a script.
We're independent. We're independent.
Independent.
And we'll have anybody in here. I don't want, our TV-free audience to think that we just strictly cater to Republicans, libertarians, just a conservative-based philosophy. If you want to come on up here and, we have a website that we have plenty of links that you can reach us. Mm-hmm. If you're a Democrat or whatever, and you got a message or something that you're trying to get across, come on up here. And we'll talk about it. Not to say we won't challenge your thought. I'm not going to, sit here and say that, but come on up here. That's why we're here. And once again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And this has been another episode of Maryland Politics here at TV Free Baltimore. And my guest this evening has been Chrissy Digman. Mm-hmm. And good luck.
Thank you so much.
On the rest of this race to get in that particular Maryland Senate seat. And it's been a pleasure having you here.
It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay, so this is the closing of another episode of Maryland Politics. I'm your host, Derek Sterling. And I'll catch all of you out there on the next episode of Maryland Politics. Have a great evening.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
Baltimore Unbound is the manifesto used by the NAACP, ACLU, and the ABLE Foundation in their attempt to transform Baltimore County into the new Baltimore City. This book is racist, authoritarian, and will not fix the problems in Baltimore City, but will create new problems in Baltimore County. The author, David Rusk, argues all of Baltimore City's problems, real and imagined, are caused by a hyper-concentration of black poverty within the political boundaries of Baltimore City. His solution to the city's problem is to move poor blacks from the worst neighborhoods in the city to the best neighborhoods in the surrounding counties. If you are poor and white, or any other skin color for that matter, you need not apply for this program, which is blatantly racist. The first page of the book remarks legal action may be necessary to bring this program into reality. In other words, the courts would force this program onto those that don't want it and force county residents to pay for the program through higher property taxes, which is blatantly authoritarian. The blatant racism and authoritarianism should not come as a surprise after looking at the author's background. He's another Democrat calling for the redistribution of wealth via higher taxes and the equality of outcome via greater government intervention into our lives.
This is the map driving the largest poverty relocation program in the U.S. There really isn't any science to this. Whether an area is opportunity or not is defined primarily by its local public school district. Now, we all know that faced with no other choice, parents will move from neighborhoods with dangerous, persistently failing schools. At least parents with the financial resources to flee. This dynamic is unjust and unsustainable. But how does redistributing several thousand high-poverty families into already overcrowded districts like Towson change that dynamic? How does it help hundreds of thousands of people left behind in the orange, non-opportunity areas? A smart approach would focus on fixing what's actually broken, not empowering unaccountable central planners to re-engineer what works. So what if we flipped this map? What if we committed to a strategy of expanding opportunity in the orange areas, instead of trying to redistribute it from the green ones? What if we reverse the incentives that drive middle-class families from so many neighborhoods as soon as they have kids? What if we stopped pretending that big ed bureaucracies will ever find a solution, and started recognizing that their one-size-fits-all central planning is the problem? We could create more options for better schools targeted specifically to the non-opportunity neighborhoods that need them most. We could start fixing this systemic failure that sacrifices tens of thousands of disadvantaged kids at the altar of the status quo. But not as long as we send machine politicians like Steve Lafferty to represent us in Annapolis. He voted to prohibit the state from intervening to save these kids, and to continue this shameful status quo, even as he champions this ridiculous relocation program targeting his constituents. Because that's what the machine does. It doesn't seek justice or protect schools or help kids. It protects its own power. It defends a status quo that serves incumbent politicians fine while failing the people miserably. I'm Steve McIntyre, and I'm running for the House of Delegates to serve Towson residents, not special interests or partisan agendas, to trust in people over central planners, and to never stop seeking better ways to expand opportunity for all.
This is my jump shot.
Trash ball, a neat game. Everybody wins. Let me show you how to play. When you pick up some trash, pretend it's a ball, and then you throw it in the bucket, you're playing a trash ball. A jump shot hook, you gotta put it away. We're gonna play that trash ball every day.
Come on, Baltimore, play ball and keep it clean.
Hey there, folks. This is Lenny Rudo from Fish Talk Magazine, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
In all of freedom's history, there has never been an organization quite like the National Rifle Association of America. No other people are so alert, so vigilant, so unafraid to take a stand and go out and fight for what's good and right. We, the people of the National Rifle Association, represent the very best of America's strength and of America's character.
Guns, the loud killer. Or, why you should support gun control and why the only people who don't want restrictions on the Second Amendment are child-killing right-wing bigots.
Look, I believe just as much as the next guy in protecting our children, but gun restrictions have proven to be ineffective. In the words of Ben Franklin, those who would trade safety for liberty deserve neither and will lose both.
Ben Franklin was a brainwashed NRA bigot. Plus, if the Founding Fathers were so smart, how come they're dead? Gun violence, that's why. Did you hear about the most recent mass shooting? Let me stand on graves and manipulate your emotions for a moment. The shooting was done with an AR-15, also known as the ghost gun. Called that because it turns people into ghosts. The AR-15 ghost gun has a 2 trillion round clip, fires 500,000 bullets per microsecond, and if you think that's bad, you haven't even heard about the bullet button. One press of that sucker and you unlock the cheat code for unlimited ammo and invincibility. Even worse, free AR-15s are being distributed with every pre-order of Call of Duty, and AR-15 ghost guns are being delivered to mental health facilities by the NRA as part of their Kill Children program.
The preceding information may be entirely untrue.
We need to do something about automatic weaponry.
Actually, fully automatic weapons are illegal and have been illegal for many years, and most crime isn't committed with AR-15s, it's handguns.
Plus, violent crime has been decreasing for years. And almost all of gun violence is the product of gang violence in leftist-run cities. The likelihood of actually being killed in a mass shooting is extremely low. Extremely low? Have you not heard there were 355 mass shootings in the U.S. this year? 355? That's ludicrous. Who would believe that? Well, NPR, PBS, HuffPo, Vox, Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, and CBS believe it. Where did they get this information? From Reddit, so you know it's trustworthy. The info came from a subreddit which was turned into a website called MassShootingTracker.org. Take a look at these terrible shootings. Oh, and almost half of them, not a single person died. It's almost like they weren't actually mass shootings. Wow, it looks like America has the safest mass shootings in the world. In fact, our mass shootings are so safe that we're willing to call 3 or more people being shot with a BB gun a mass shooting. In the US, there have been 14 trillion mass shootings in the last half hour. But it doesn't have to be that way. Look at Australia. Australia is a land where everything is trying to kill you. Except guns, of course, because they got rid of them. Huzzah for Australia, a country which saw a plummet in violence after its gun ban. Ignore the fact that this is a continuing trend in which gun violence in Australia was decreasing at an identical rate before guns were banned. And seriously, who needs an AR-15 for hunting? Or self-defense? A simple handgun works. You don't need a ghost gun. Well, actually, the AR-15 is one of the most popular hunting rifles, and they're great for home defense, too. Not only that, but inner-city shop owners especially need AR-15s to protect their stores and families in case of riots when journalists irresponsibly rile up racial tensions.
Ugh, it's justified outrage. Get over it.
Look, not only are you losing the arguments on home defense and hunting, but even if you weren't, the Second Amendment isn't about those things. It's about the ability to rebel against tyranny. That's paranoid and insane. The government will never become tyrannical. What do you think of Donald Trump? He's literally Hitler. He wants to put Muslims and women in FEMA camps. The Constitution was talking about the militia, by the way, not the people. And militia translates to government military. What? No, it doesn't. The people are the militia. And why would any government need to give itself the right to own guns in a founding document? I'm done with this conversation, you right-wing, pro-NRA, anti-child, anti-woman, death-loving bigot. You may have been taken in by these pro-violence hate facts, but I have enough faith in the public to trust that they will believe the objective and logical truths I propose. Guns are icky. The government was giving itself the right to own guns with the Second Amendment. AR-15s are useless for home defense and hunting, but are also the most dangerous and effective killing machines ever created. Governments never become tyrannical. Trump is Hitler, and if he wins, our government will become tyrannical. And if by some stretch you're able to poke holes in any of these airtight arguments, get ready for me to fall back on this. The Constitution is a living document, which means it says whatever I want it to say. The NRA disagrees. They think the Constitution is dead. Why? Because they shot it, that's why. But it survived. The question is, will our children survive? Hey guys, it's Freedom Tunes. Thanks so much for watching. If you like watching leftist nonsense get destroyed and made fun of in animated form, subscribe on YouTube and like us on Facebook. If you really like watching leftist nonsense get destroyed, donate on Patreon to help me make more cartoons. Thank you so much.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
This is Sam with Restore Computer Repair in Baltimore, Maryland. If you're having any computer problems whatsoever with your Mac or PC, desktop or laptop, we can fix it at a guaranteed lowest price. We're located at 8701 Harford Road in Parkville, Maryland, 21234. You can reach us at 443-725-5050. That's 443-725-5050. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can reach us at www.restorecomputerrepair.com.
Hey guys, Johnny Alonzo, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to another program. Tonight, our guest is writer and actor Paul Sieber. So we want to say, how you doing, Paul?
I'm doing real well. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here. Now, what I'd like to start with, tell us a little bit about any recent projects you've been involved with, something maybe
Things you've just completed, things that are in process, or things that are coming up?
Actually, I have a couple of programs that I've done some work for. I just did a short film for a local filmmaker down in Virginia named Johnny Johnson. That'll be on Amazon Prime this fall.
Okay. What's that called?
Also, my brain just blanked out. So
you just did this movie. Where is it?
Yeah, I just yeah.
What's the name of that movie?
Hang on, I've got it. I've got it. See what happens. You never trust an actor.
Take two. No.
Sorry about that. Hang on. I'm going to go look that up there.
Okay. It sounds bad. Oh, you know, I just finished that, but I don't know the name of it.
And hang on.
It's okay. You'll get in the groove.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So
the name of the project.
So I actually did a project for a Virginia filmmaker, Johnny Johnson, called Give Up the Ghost.
Okay.
It's a little horror comedy film. It'll be on Amazon Prime this fall.
What kind of roles do you play in that?
I play the gentleman that's running I guess you would say, a program where they rent out haunted buildings and then they give people like ghostly experiences there. It's like a gigantic kind of a con. So I play a very flamboyant, strange guy that is hosting these horror weekends that you can be invited to, and this one's taking place at this supposedly haunted hotel.
Wow, and it's going to be an Amazon Prime movie?
It'll be on Amazon Prime. It's a short.
Short.
It'll be out this fall. I'm also going to be doing some work for another area filmmaker, Derek Gray. I'm going to be in a new project of his called Toll Booth.
Oh, okay.
Actually, if you go on to Instagram, they're actually raising the funds right now for that project.
Hey, remember that, people.
So, Toll Booth on Instagram, and that one I'm playing a dad of a character who's accused of rape.
This is Toll Booth.
In this film called Toll Booth. It's actually going to be a series.
Oh,
a web series. So yes,
I
actually did another web series for him too. That's available online. The Light Workers. It's called the Light Workers.
What did you do in that one?
That was a fun role for me. I play the devil.
Oh, the devil!
So yeah, I got to play bad. It's always fun to play. Any actor will tell you it's always fun to play bad. But I kind of played a little bit of a twist. I didn't make it the openly evil kind of a thing. He's a little more kind of a little fun-loving. Someone you would kind of like until you find out he's the devil.
Lovable devil. Huh?
Yes, lovable devil. So that was a pretty good one. So those are a couple of projects I have right now. I have a couple other pending projects in the work. I get probably in a little detail right now, but
okay. Sometimes people don't want to talk about them if they're not firm.
Yeah, a couple of filmmakers, I was speaking with, they said, they want to make sure they get some stuff in line before I get into too much detail on that. I did a film for another Virginia filmmaker, Matt Cloud, called a short film called The Bride, which will be part of an anthology called Beneath the Old Dark House. Which he's actually working in post-production on. He's a little delayed on post-production on that because he just got hired by Troma. To do a film for them.
That's the step up for him, right?
The Toxic Avenger in his movie.
Toxic Avenger is going to be
which means there'll be a lot of nudity and a lot of gore, and the guy with a mop. So they've got that. So
time to get a part for you in it.
I've done those kind of things before. So but no Toxic Avenger. That guy's like
Yeah, I know, like the Hulk. Right?
But so I have that, and then I'm on several projects right now. You can find me if you happen to have Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime,
there you go.
You can find me in a film called The Henchman's War.
Oh. What did you do in that one?
I played a hitman named Billy Moss.
Oh, hitman.
That was a very good role. I enjoyed that film a lot. Another local filmmaker made that one. A couple other projects you can find me. Justin Tim Payne's Ninja series. I'm in 2 of those films: Ninjas versus Vampires and Ninjas versus Monsters.
Wow.
You can find me on there. He has another film actually that I'm on there too called Trek Off. That's also available too. It's I guess you would say it was a series of, he has a podcast called Trek Off, and on the podcast they talk about Star Trek and other things, and we went to visit some Star Trek sets down in Georgia for a web series I used to do some work with, Starship Farragut.
Right.
Which is another one you can find, www.starshipfarragut.com.
And people can find that somewhere?
You can find that one on starshipfarragut.com.
Okay.
It's a Star Trek original series based web series that I wrote 3 of the last 4 episodes for them. Episode that you can find online right now, the last episode I did for them called The Crossing.
Okay.
I'm very proud of that one because last year at the DC Web Fest, I won Best Screenplay for that one. So for me, that was an exciting honor because it wasn't a fan film thing, it wasn't a Star Trek thing, it wasn't a sci-fi thing. This was just a film festival. Right. And they thought that my Star Trek fan film screenplay was pretty good. So that was a pretty big honor. And that was the last time I came back to play a character I had originated with that, with those folks 10 years ago.
Wow.
And I came back to play that character one more time. I had written a previous episode for that that was one of the things I'm most proud of writing as well, called The Price of Anything. And then I wrote the series finale, which is in post-production now, called The Crossing.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a real joy writing for that group, a good group of folks. Starting, you know, when I got into acting, starting with the fan films 10 years ago, I've made some of the best friends, so, you know, John Broughton in particular, you know, and working with those guys on the fan film series, and James Cawley in upstate New York. I've done some work for his Star Trek series that he used to do called Star Trek Phase 2 or Star Trek New Voyages, depending on which episode you were watching. I did an episode for them that was written by the Star Trek novelist David Gallanter, who happens to be a friend of mine now too, who I met through the Star Trek thing, called Enemy Starfleet.
Wow.
Where I played the primary hero outside of the main Trek crew, if you will, in that one. So it was a role Dave had written for me specifically. So terrific. And I got to act opposite Barbara Luna.
Oh, wow.
So if you're a fan of any movie or television show from the 70s, Barbara Luna was in it.
Yes, she was there.
You know, and she was fabulous.
Yes.
She's fabulous in person, in every way, shape, and form. Great
Yes.
lady. She was really a joy to work with, too, and that was a really fun group. And not to plug Mr. Cawley up in New York right now, but I'll plug him anyways. He also has he took the sets that they had built for the fan film series, no longer making fan films, and he created the Star Trek Original Series set tour. It is like you're walking into the Desilu soundstage in the 1960s.
Wow.
It's down to every tiny detail, except for the fact that he made all the sets immersive. So even the swing walls that used to not exist, so the big cameras used to go in, they're all around. So when you walk in sickbay, you're in the room.
Wow.
And it's an absolutely incredible tour. It's in Ticonderoga, New York. And in August, they have a little thing called Trek-Conderoga, which is a Star Trek festival, if you will, and the whole town becomes part of it. So it's fantastic stuff.
Do you know if William Shatner's ever been there?
Matter of fact, just 2 months ago, I was up there. Mr. Shatner came up they did the Shatner weekend.
And you were there?
And I was up there with them. I helped out with some helping with the crowds and those kind of things. And Mr. Shatner came up and saw the sets and met with the fans, and they had 2,000 fans there. It was unbelievable, and you got to see him back on the original bridge, sitting in the captain's chair.
That's cool.
And, yeah, it was kind of a fun moment.
Did you speak to him?
I got to speak to him briefly. You know, I mean, he was really busy.
Busy with all those people and everything.
He must have signed a couple thousand autographs.
I bet.
I cannot believe a man, in his years like that, in his 80s, has the energy level and everything he did. He was in person. He was one of those celebrities you want to meet because he was absolutely amazing in person. So it was a great moment.
So even an actor can be a fanboy.
Oh, actors are the biggest fans. If an actor tries to come around and say that that he's not a fan of other actors and not a fan of other filmmakers, then you're not really observing the craft.
Right.
I mean, one of the things I've kind of spent a lot of time now, and I always drive my wife crazy with it a little bit, but I look at film in an entirely different way since I've been doing it. And I look at the technical aspects, I look at the subtle aspects of film. My good friend that's a local filmmaker, Eric Myers, who I know you've had on the program before, his first film, Roulette, I remember shortly after meeting him when I had seen Roulette for the first time, and I had noted to him that, you had this use of light where I said, like, the different characters had like a primary color, and at the end of the film, all those colors kind of merged together. It goes like, oh my God, you saw that.
See?
But I do look for that. See, that's the kind of stuff I look for in a film. It can be something really small, but to me, what he did in that film with that was that created moods. And so when you see those kind of things in film, if you're not a student of it, you're not going to learn. And you can learn by being a fan and by being a student of film.
That's why some people or some actors I've talked to would say, you know, they don't necessarily get bored on the set because if they're not in the scene, they're watching what the other actors do. Yeah. They're watching what the crew does. A lot of actors who later became directors because they were watching what the crew was doing before. You know, while they were
some of the best directors I worked with were actors because they knew how to get a performance out of an actor. I worked with a gentleman named Ben Tolpin on Enemy Starfleet for the Star Trek New Voyages folks. And Ben's a very good actor out in California, does a lot of commercial work. He had a main guest role on NCIS a couple of years ago. Wow. He's a terrific actor. And when he directed that episode, one of the things that was great when he was working with me is him being a director, and there was supposed to be a scene where my character broke down. And working with him, he was really able to pull the performance out of me, give me, you know, to how to motivate it and how to see it. And working with an actor as the director, to me, was just a wonderful experience in that area. So I do appreciate actors that, or, you know, directors that get into that. I mean, not every actor has to be a director, like not every football coach has to be a former player, but a lot of great coaches were.
Exactly. Now, where did it start for you? Were you a little kid, you were interested in acting? Where did the interest in acting come from?
I've always been a ham.
Okay.
So my mother will probably tell you that.
All right.
I did a lot of theater in high school, back in the 80s. We don't have to say that out loud.
And college too, right?
Yes. I did a lot of theater in high school. I was Meal to Beck in South Pacific, and high school musicals, those kind of things. In college, I did some theater. I did a lot of acting classes. I was an engineering major, taking acting classes on the side.
Okay, sure.
You know, because you have to do those arts. You know, throw those arts in there, and that was always the kind of thing that I kind of glommed onto. I was actually did the news on the campus radio station, you know, with the news voice, you know, WRUW, 101.1 FM, bringing you the news, you know, those kind of and but I got out of it for a while, and I would say that the thing that happened to me was I was a large person. When I say large, I was probably about 400 pounds. I was about
amazing.
So
look at you today, man.
I had gastric surgery, so I'll be one of the people that admits, you know, that sometimes you need help.
Right.
And I was still a big person, and I had heard about these folks doing Star Trek fan films. Now, I wasn't one of these. I did the Star Trek. It's kind of funny when I tell people all the Star Trek stuff I did, they think I'm a Trekkie, and I'm not. I'm a fan of science fiction. Star Trek happens to be a science fiction I like.
Right.
But I'm not one of those chapter and verse Star Trek people. You know, they tell you, that episode directed by, this guy was the guest. I have no idea who the hell these people are.
And quote the dialogue.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, I don't even know the names of the episodes. I say, you know, the one with the thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd heard about these people doing this. Online, I found this one called Starship Exeter, and it was really low budget. I mean, it was like the paper mache monster, kind of the whole thing. And I said, boy, this is awful, and I love it. And I found out about these guys that were doing this in upstate New York. They had filmed one too, and that was James Cawley and his group up there. So it's just like, and so I went to this sci-fi convention. It was in Baltimore.
Okay.
Shore Leave. I had never been to a sci-fi. I hadn't been to a sci-fi convention, I think, since I want to say 1992 was going to be the last time I was at one.
Okay.
So I, you know, that'll be fun. I'll go to a sci-fi convention. You know, I may go to meet these guys. And so I met them, and they said, yeah, a couple of guys were there. A gentleman named Rich Newman, who was running security for them, said, hey, why don't you come up? And I met another guy there named John Broughton.
Okay.
And he said, hey, I want to do a film. I want to do a series like that locally. You know, do like a Star Trek fan film series like that too, but I'll do it down here in the D.C. area. And I said, that sounds like fun. So I went up to New York, and I worked as a production assistant. I would say the biggest thing I probably did up there was I got up there in my truck. It was about a 10-hour drive. And this is back when I was really large.
Okay.
And they were trying to, they had no money. And Walter Koenig was their guest star. And so they got to play Chekhov.
Chekhov, sure.
And they were trying to piecemeal together scraps of carpet to do the floor of Chekhov's quarters. And all they had were scraps. I mean, I kid you not, when they were scraps. So I said, what are you doing? They said, we can't get this carpet. We don't have any carpet, and we don't have any money to buy any more carpet. I said, well, get out of the way. I had done some linoleum work because I used to do some home construction. And I figured I'll work it like I do linoleum. So I pieced together, matched the grain. And I remember feeling a person looming over me, and it was James Cawley. He goes like, what are you doing? I said, I'm fixing this carpet. He goes, I thought we didn't have any carpet. I'm like, yeah, I just made these scraps. He goes like, that looks like a whole carpet. I'm going like, well, yeah. He goes, well, how many years you been a carpet layer? I said, never. He goes, welcome to New Voyages. So I went up there and I did production work for them. But when I did a pilot, not a pilot episode, but a pilot like thing with John for the Starship Farragut locally. I had done like a little, we did like a little like trailer kind of a thing, and that was when I was big, and seeing myself in that and so forth. And that was when I decided to have the the weight loss surgery. So when I went back and I had lost the weight, that's when I really kind of decided, it'll be okay if I'm going up there to be a production assistant, maybe I'll get on camera. And John said, oh, we'll have you play this character on the local one. And I did it. And like that, I got the bug back that I had years ago. And I just loved the performing part. I just loved that. So that was going back to, taking acting classes, going, to the, taking improv classes, the Washington Improv Theater, taking acting classes. My acting teacher, John Judy, who actually I've done some mystery dinner theater with him actually recently. He was an acting teacher I had. There's going to be some of the do mystery dinner theaters all over the Northern Virginia area. Matter of fact, I know in July they're going to be doing a couple at Maggiano's in Springfield Town Center.
Okay.
There's a chance I might show up in one of those. So I'm hoping. John's got my name.
Keep your eyes out for you.
Okay, I hope you definitely keep me in mind for that. But so I did one of those for him, and so I do that kind of stuff on the side too. But yeah, completely got the bug. I like the live performing. Unfortunately, being a person with a full-time day job and family, that's just a bit time-consuming. I did a live one-man show a couple of years back for a gentleman named Ken Beaver, who I might be doing I did a film for him called Law and Disorder, where I played a unethical lawyer named Sooner Fairbanks. And he had written a script for a one-man show about his experiences. He has 4 sons, about his experiences as a Little League dad. But he really didn't want to perform it. So we kind of took his screenplay, or his stage play, and kind of converted it over to my style of character voices and so forth like that. And I did several live performances of that, and we recorded that. I don't believe it's online right now. He's got another project actually. I'm hoping that will be talked about recently. So. Yeah. That's coming up, but that was really, to me, was fun doing the live, particularly the one-man show, which is a real challenge because you have no one else to play off of but you. If you've got a bad audience, you're screwed.
Do you prefer theater or film?
I like both.
You like both?
Honestly, I like both. There's a satisfaction from theater with the live audience.
Yeah.
You get immediate gratification, but on a stage, you don't necessarily have the time to develop a character that you might in a film. So in a film, a lot of times I can do something very subtle that defines a character, like in Matt Cloud's The Bride, the character I played who's a serial killer.
Okay.
But he's very quiet, subtle kind of a guy. On screen, I could do that. You could never do something like that on stage. I couldn't play this. Stage is always big.
Right.
You have to be big.
Sure.
Whereas in film, you can do something very small. And sometimes that's as much of a challenge. So I like the challenge of both. Although it's hard switching back and forth. But with the stage work, the one thing is it's very time consuming. I mean, that one-man show was 6 months of work.
Wow.
For 3 performances.
And you have a family and you have a day job.
Yeah, and so that was 6 months of 5-day-a-week rehearsals and rewriting the script and memorizing 65 minutes to do by myself. You can't say cut. You can't, so I mean, that was, I actually had, hidden cue cards with phrases for different areas when I was in different places on the stage during the show. I had little cue cards taped behind pieces of set and so forth to give me little reminders in case I got stage fright at some point. Little reminders of, you'll be talking about this here, It wasn't like fully written out, but just like a little reminder phrase to kind of throw me back on, kind of a thing. So I had them hidden all over the place. And then during the intermission, I had to have somebody go out and swap them all and hope they remembered where to put all the right ones, because if they put the wrong one in the wrong place, I could start on the wrong part of the dialogue and the wrong, but it's also fun. I think probably maybe as time goes on, I wouldn't mind doing more stage work, but I really do. I really enjoy film.
Now, do you ever envy or feel like, man, one day I would like to do it full time?
I think like any actor. If
I
there
think I
was,
can make it.
I would love the opportunity to do something like that full time. But realistically, I live in the D.C. area.
Right.
There's a lot of film
Yeah.
in our area. A lot of film in our area.
Right.
But the vast majority of it's indie.
Right.
Or the bigger budget production stuff that comes from the area, they generally don't hire from the area too much. They
Right.
they hire a lot of extras and so forth in the area, but they don't really
Right.
look for a lot of their principals. Their principals are going to come from L.A. They're going to come from New York. I've done projects in Canada. I've done projects in California. I've done
Okay.
projects in New York. I've done them down in Georgia, so I've traveled around from different projects. But but it's it's still it's a time-consuming thing, and unless you've got a different financial constraint in your life, that's probably what kind of has to draw the line for me.
And you also characterize yourself as a character actor, as opposed to a leading man or comic relief or whatever it would be. So are you comfortable with that?
I don't mind
range
that.
of roles, or
to me, it means I'm going to have a new challenge, because when I look at a character role, I want to disappear.
Okay.
When you see the character on the film, a lot of times I'm perfectly happy if you don't know it's me.
Okay.
A great story was I did a film called You're Bleeping Dead.
Yes, right.
With Jay Spence, and in it I play this sheriff.
Right.
In this really strange town that these two girls get trapped in because they ran out of gas.
Right.
And it's a grindhouse movie, which is where the title,
Right.
So we're at a fundraiser. He was trying to raise some money for some post-production costs. And we're at this beautiful bar restaurant up in Baltimore. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was a really lovely place.
Oh, nice.
And Jay showed the trailer for the film and a couple of clips, and then he introduced the cast. And then, we kind of went around and talking to the different, folks that were there, hoping to get some investors, kind of a thing. And this older lady comes up to me. She goes like, "Oh, so you're one of the actors in the movie?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes like, "Well, I'm sorry you're not in the trailer." I said, "Well, ma'am, I'm in the trailer." She goes, "Well, I must have missed you." And I'm like, "I don't know how you could. I had a pretty notable scene in the trailer." She goes, "Well, I don't know how I missed you then." I said, "Well, who were you?" I said, "I was the sheriff." She goes, "Oh, no, that was that other guy. He's not here." I said, "No, ma'am, that's me." And I did the voice of the sheriff from the trailer, and she went, she goes, I completely didn't believe that was you. I said, "Well, then good. That's what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to be focused on the sheriff, not on, hey, there's Paul playing the sheriff."
Right.
It's a little bit different if you have a leading role. You kind of want to have a little bit more in you because you want to kind of get noticed.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a leading character in something, I want a little bit of me in there, because when people go like, "Hey, there's Paul and he's doing a great job."
Right.
But when it's a character role, I want you to remember the character. So I really don't mind that. I idolize Lon Chaney Sr.
Right.
Man of a thousand faces. I've self-taught myself some basics of makeup that I can do to change my appearance for different roles when necessary. I'll change my voice, mannerism, clothes, walk, anything I can to kind of make that character stand out as what he is. That's not me.
Right. Because I would say, though, you're not being typecast then, which is a good thing.
Well, you know what? Honestly, it opens a lot of opportunities. I have a lot of filmmakers that I work with that will call me and say, "Hey, I've got this smaller role in a film, but I need a guy that can do this."
Yeah.
Or I need a guy that can do this.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Yeah, sure. And that to me that ends up being part of the fun, because some of them, I've actually had a few filmmakers who actually even come up to me now to be along the lines of kind of like, "Hey, I've got this character. I don't know what you want to be like. What do you think?" I think he should sound like this and look like this. Okay, do that.
They give you that freedom.
So I come with what I call my Lon Chaney box, my makeup kit, and I've got a variety of mustaches and scars and different makeup things like Lon Chaney used to do, back in the day in Hollywood, when they'd say, "I need a pirate with a scar," and he would make a giant scar on his face, or something like that. Or I need someone who's from East Indian descent, and he would make himself look like he was East Indian.
Right, exactly.
And that was how his whole career started. So, I don't mind going in there and seeing what I can mix up and come up with something different. Sometimes they want it to look like me, but they'll maybe want me to sound different, or they want me to move differently.
Right.
Or sometimes they'll just throw it out and say, "Here's the character loosely. What can you do with it?" So, but it honestly, it does keep me busy. So, that's the plus side. I'm not typecast as you only play this.
Right. You're only in sci-fi, or you're only
yeah,
a sheriff.
exactly. You know, you're only in
of,
horror films. You're only, you know, for
Yeah.
you know, Derek Gray that I did the Light Workers with and Toll Booth that I'm going to be doing coming up. You know, for him, I was in 2 of his other films, and you know, one of them I play this, you know, not too nice dad of 2 sons, and the one son passes away and is dying from cancer in the film, and the other son's trouble and everything like that. And that's a straight drama film, where I'm pretty much, you know, playing an older version of myself.
Wow.
Whereas I go to Ken Beaver's Law and Disorder, and I'm playing this goofy, just pompous lawyer, Sooner Fairbanks, who's just like so into himself, and that's a complete comedy role. You know, that, I mean, all the way down to the cake in the face. I mean, it's, you know, it's a pure comedy role. And, you know, so the nice thing is I haven't gotten typecast in that one thing. Now, the leading parts, I'm 52, you know, you got the, you know, the young guys with the great abs and they're, you know, 26 years old. That's the leading roles. I mean, I'm honored when there's something that's written for someone that fits my age bracket, and I get the opportunity to do that, and I jump on those roles when they come up. But they don't always; those roles aren't always available to me. So, you know, I've learned to say that if I want to act, I want to find different ways to stretch myself. So the character roles give me that opportunity.
Well, that's great. I mean, are there any roles or, let's say, type of role that you haven't played yet that's kind of on your wish list? Or, boy, I'd like to play that type of character. I would like to play that character. Like, there's somebody like a famous character I would really like to play. You know, in Shakespeare, people like to play certain roles or that kind of thing.
You know, that's actually a really good question, because when I look at those kind of things, I think of films that I love, and I would love to play a character. Like, one of my all-time favorite movies is Seven.
Okay.
And I love the character that Morgan Freeman plays in that movie, because Morgan Freeman's character, he's quiet, there's a dignity to him, but there's also a sadness to him. And there's so much depth in that portrayal. You know, I'd love an opportunity to play a character like that has that depth, but it's not something that's, you know, that necessarily has a lot of, you know, moments to it, but where the depth has to be more internal.
Right.
And, you know, trying to translate that onto the screen. I really enjoy the opportunities when I get them to play something that's subtle.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, a lot of times the character roles are a little bit bigger than life.
Right.
But, you know, when you have the opportunity to play something that's more soft and has more power to it with the softness, that to me is a huge challenge. You know, and I really, really seek out those kind of roles when I can get them. I haven't had too many opportunities in that area, and you know, I'm always looking for, you know, for the chance to jump on those kind of things. In that same vein, you know, sometimes you take it on yourself. I'm actually putting my final notes on a feature screenplay that I just wrote called The Patchwork Man, a Frankenstein Tale. It's a modern day retelling of Frankenstein based on the Mary Shelley book.
Terrific.
And so, of course, the screenplay is just about done. The tough part will be then, like, you know, trying to put together a crew and funding.
There you go.
Yeah, the big
Funding's
one's
always the
funding.
big problem.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
You wouldn't be directing, would you, or would you?
I'm considering. Eric Myers thinks I should.
He thinks you should,
because he thinks I have a sensibility for how I want the story to flow.
Okay, there you go. You like him?
I'm not sure, because the main thing when I wrote it for is I wrote the character of Victor for myself.
Oh, Victor Frankenstein.
So, and because it's not portraying Victor the way you
typically have seen
him in the past.
Okay.
And you know, so I really kind of wrote that role for myself. It doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily be the one to play. It might be one of these things where I sell the screenplay to someone else, or someone else is going to produce it, and they're going to have, you know, maybe they might need something with more of a name to get money.
Sure.
You know, in a perfect world, I could get some funding and I get to play that. You know, whether or not I would direct something like that, I don't know. I've directed some stuff before. It's not something that is really my thrill area. You know, I'm not kind of like, oh, I really want to direct something. I really like being on the actor side of the camera, or behind my keyboard.
Well, there you go. Now, I think you're talking about liking to play the subtle roles. I forget what great actor, I think a great actor said it. So if you do a part, you know, it's harder, and what you want to do is if they want you to go big, go small.
Yeah.
Continue to go smaller. Because if you're quiet, then everybody's looking at you. You know, they're leaning in to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's better than somebody who's really big with the gestures or the booming voices.
and
things like that.
It really is. It really is. When you look at the great actors and look at their best performances, to me, they're always the ones that are not up and big in your face. To me, Tom Hanks' best performance, other than Philadelphia, was Castaway.
Oh, okay.
Because he practically doesn't speak most of that film. And you feel what he feels with his frustration and everything being like that. To me, I think it's a greater performance than Forrest Gump. I mean, I love Forrest Gump. Everyone loves Forrest Gump. But his performance in Castaway is just amazing. One of my all-time favorite movies is High Noon with Gary Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I love it so much is it was a Western, made in the Western area, but it's not really a Western. It doesn't follow all the cliche and everything that Western did. It's more of a psychological drama as you're following Marshall Cain as this day builds from the time he finds out that these guys are coming. And that build, and to me one of the best moments in film is that final scene with that look of scorn on his face when he throws the tin star in the dirt. There's not a word out of him. Now, if you made that movie nowadays, he'd be like, hey, you, to be some kind of a curse word or some big, go to heck, you guys, or, there'd be something that would be, if that movie had been made today, that's what you would have gotten with it.
Sure.
But in that film, the look of scorn on his face when the townspeople all come out after what he just did for them, and that look on his face when he throws the tin star in the dirt, that's great acting. To me, that's a tremendous moment on film. Or Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. That's great acting. That character Gregory Peck's character wasn't big. He wasn't large. Even when he was doing the courtroom, it wasn't this, it was so soft and so subtle that it's just this tremendous performance. And to me, that's just when I see stuff like that, or I go back to Morgan Freeman in Seven. What a performance, because it is pulled back, and that makes you want to look at him like, what's he thinking? What's going on? What's that guy thinking? I mean, looking right at him. And to me, that's got a moment to it. That's got a power to it.
That's great acting.
That's great acting.
Because it's been said around here a lot that in music, and I could say also in acting, they say the best note is silence.
Oh yeah.
And so
and as a screenwriter, that's one of the hardest things to write.
Silence.
Silence. How do you write that? One thing I found when I first started doing screenplays, when I wrote the first few for Starship Farragut, one of the first problems I had was over dialogue and learning to cut myself back. And part of that is you have to trust your actors that they can do what you're saying that character feels. But the other part is, when you're writing it, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking like, if they're saying, I'm upset, I'm very upset with you. You don't have to say that. Sometimes a look could be more than enough. The first thing that should be cut when you're on set, if a screenplay that I've written is being filmed, the first things that get cut in it when we're actually filming it should be dialogue. Because if there's some way that a look can say more than those words ever did, go with the look.
There you go.
Silence is golden.
Well, Paul, guess what? The time just flew by. We're going to have to stop. But we always say we invite you back to our humble little studio at any time to push a project, to talk about movies, even movies you've liked and actors you've admired, which we really didn't get into much. You hinted on those guys already. But, it may be more detailed. It sounds like you know a lot about old films.
I love old movies.
What we're going to ask you to do is, so people can find you and your projects and keep looking for you, is to look into your camera and give them your contact information.
Well, of course, you can find me on the Internet Movie Database, IMDb, under Paul R. Sieber. I'm also on Facebook. So I always look for new friends and fans on Facebook. That's always fine, too. You can find me in several projects. Just search my name on YouTube. You can find stuff like Starship Farragut, Star Trek New Voyages, several programs like that on YouTube. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can find me in Ninjas vs. Vampires. You can find me in Henchman's War, The Adventures of Luana Lee by Lee Dahl.
Oh, there you go.
Lee Dahl. Yeah. I'm in a couple of his films. I was the second fixer.
Okay.
So you can find me some of that stuff online, and like I said, you can look for Positive Uplifting Television. Find me in the Lightworkers, and if you happen to be on Instagram and you want to make a donation to to our new project with Toll Booth, please do, so we can make sure we get that produced as well.
Terrific. Well, again, thank you for stopping by.
Happy to be here. And so, folks, that's the end of another show, and this one really flew by, so I'm sure we'll have Paul back at another time. So this is Paul Stefan saying good night.
You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore. Welcome to TV Free Baltimore's Books and Authors.
The book is called Encounter with the Aberdeen Wild Man, a True Story.
This is a true story?
Yes, I was born and raised here in Baltimore County, and this takes place about 15 miles east of here in White Marsh. These are my personal paranormal experiences growing up here in Baltimore County back in the 60s and 70s. And the Aberdeen Wild Man is actually a humanoid creature I encountered on the shores out here in the Chesapeake Bay outside the Gunpowder Falls State Park back in 1980. I encountered a creature that appeared human but was not human. When I actually met the Wild Man, I was 17. But I had had paranormal experiences leading up to that point and then after that. I was encouraged to start writing about it back in the early 2000s because that was the time when the paranormal began to explode again in the media. The Aberdeen Wild Man is the central character of the book because what I saw was what appeared to be a human. And you could have had me convinced he was a human right up until the point where I saw him make a vertical leap of more than 15 feet into the trees overhead and then proceed to run through the trees screaming and hollering like an ape. In all of nature, there's no creature capable of a 15-foot vertical leap. He had both elements of a physical body, but he also had a spiritual quality because I actually knew he was there before I turned around and saw him there. And you talk to any experienced hunter, you do not sense the bear, and you do not sense the deer or the elk or whatever. This thing I sensed, it had a human spiritual quality to it. And so he enables me to research aspects of the paranormal that are both physical and spiritual. And that covers a broad spectrum. It's actually an exhaustive investigation. I count my experiences, I list other people's experiences to kind of like have comparison's sake. I give a really brief history of how I got to this point, very brief, and then I start comparing them to the only thing in nature I'm aware of that has the like or same characteristics, and that's a Sasquatch. And so I examined more than 1,000 individual instances of encounters with Sasquatch in order to look for characteristics it had in common with this creature, and I found many. But you see, when you investigate Sasquatch or the cryptozoological field, you invariably have to start investigating the paranormal because in the paranormal you have entities sharing characteristics like and in common with the Sasquatch and other what's called crypto beasts. And then when you study the paranormal long enough and deep enough, you invariably have to start studying the extraterrestrial because you find characteristics like and in common in that field as well with the other two. One leads to another, to another, to another, and I'm chock full of facts. I do find many comparable stories to mine, yes I do. Locally, but also abroad in the country, but also around the world, because when I examined the Sasquatch, I was astonished to find how many countries have a beast similar to the Sasquatch, which I didn't know before. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, you can order through any one of them.
You're watching Books and Authors on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, I'm Steve Darnall, the publisher of Nostalgia Digest, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore. Well done.
The Despothiel is on my shore, Maryland, my Maryland. His torch is at thy temple door, Maryland, my Maryland. Avenge the patriotic roar that fleck the streets of Baltimore, and be the battle queen of yore, Maryland, my Maryland. Thou wilt not cower in the dust, Maryland.
This concludes another day of live stream broadcasting from TV Free Baltimore.